This woman discovered hundreds of mysterious speakers on Mount Shasta. The towering forests surrounding Mount Shasta have long been associated with mystery, spiritual traditions, and stories that blur the line between folklore and reality. For generations, hikers, campers, and local residents have described unusual experiences within the mountain's wilderness, from unexplained lights to strange sounds echoing through the trees. However, during the month of June 2026, an entirely different mystery emerged, one that combined modern technology with ancient spiritual beliefs in a way that left countless visitors both fascinated and unsettled. The unusual discovery began when horseback riders and hikers exploring remote trails noticed an unnatural wall of sound drifting through the otherwise peaceful landscape. At first, many assumed the noise came from distant machinery or construction work somewhere beyond the forest. Instead, as they ventured deeper into the trees, they found themselves surrounded by hundreds of small solar-powered speakers carefully positioned throughout the wilderness. Collectively, the devices produced an overwhelming chorus that resembled loud white noise from a distance. Yet, when visitors approached individual speakers, the confusing sound separated into a single repeating human voice continuously reciting prayers, spiritual teachings, and blessings on an endless loop. The sheer number of devices transformed sections of the mountain into an eerie soundscape unlike anything witnesses had experienced before. Every direction seemed filled with overlapping voices, each slightly out of sync with the next, creating an atmosphere that many described as both peaceful and unsettling. Videos recorded by visitors quickly spread across social media, with millions of people watching in disbelief as endless rows of speakers stretched across hillsides, hidden among rocks, bushes, and tall grasses. As investigators examined the mysterious installation more closely, they identified the devices as automated solar-powered Buddhist chanting machines. Designed to operate indefinitely using sunlight, these speakers are commonly placed near temples, shrines, and grave sites throughout parts of Asia, where they continuously recite sacred prayers believed to generate blessings and positive spiritual energy. While individual units are relatively common within religious settings, discovering hundreds scattered across the slopes of Mount Shasta was something entirely unprecedented. The obvious question quickly became who had placed them there and why. No organization claimed responsibility, and no official explanation ever emerged. Because the devices appeared intentionally spread across such a large area, many concluded that the installation had required a significant amount of planning, time, and effort. Rather than appearing random, the arrangement suggested a deliberate spiritual undertaking carried out by anonymous individuals with a specific purpose in mind. Mount Shasta itself has long attracted those who believe the mountain possesses extraordinary spiritual significance. Many regard it as one of the world's great energy centers, drawing visitors seeking meditation, healing, enlightenment, and deeper connections with the unseen. Numerous traditions describe the mountain as a place where spiritual forces are especially active, making it a natural destination for those wishing to perform ceremonies or leave offerings. Every device repeated spiritual messages rather than random sounds, strongly reinforcing the belief that the installation served a ceremonial purpose rather than a practical one. The mystery became even more complicated because many of the speakers appeared close to complex property boundaries and isolated areas that were difficult to access. This created challenges for landowners and local authorities attempting to determine who was responsible or whether the devices should be removed. Meanwhile, hikers continued discovering additional speakers hidden beneath shrubs, attached to branches, and positioned among rocks, suggesting the installation extended much farther than initially believed. For many visitors, the experience proved unforgettable. Walking through a quiet forest, only to hear hundreds of overlapping voices drifting through the trees, created an atmosphere unlike anything they had encountered before. Some described the sound as strangely comforting, while others admitted it gave them an overwhelming feeling that they were wandering through an enormous unseen ceremony taking place beyond ordinary perception. Mysterious Snapchat apparition. This unsettling photograph began as nothing more than an ordinary Snapchat exchange between two friends. A young woman was home alone one evening, casually sending selfies back and forth while chatting, never imagining that one simple image would soon become the focus of intense discussion across paranormal communities. Everything appeared completely normal until her friend carefully looked over one of the photographs and noticed something unusual lurking in the background. At first, the warning was met with laughter, as the girl assumed her friend was simply trying to frighten her. However, the conversation quickly changed when it became clear that the concern was genuine. Feeling increasingly uneasy, she reopened the photograph and carefully zoomed into the dark corner of the room. What she discovered immediately sent a chill through her. Hidden within the shadows appeared to be a mysterious humanoid figure crouched near the doorway. According to her account, there had been nobody else inside the house when the photograph was taken, and she had certainly not noticed anyone standing there while using her phone. The unexpected discovery transformed what had been an ordinary evening into an unforgettable experience. As news of the image spread online, it quickly attracted the attention of paranormal enthusiasts from around the world. Many viewers pointed to the unusual appearance of the figure, noting that it seemed partially transparent, blending into the darkness while still maintaining a distinct human-like outline. Others remarked that the shape appeared to be watching from the corner of the room rather than simply being a trick of the light. The longer people examined the photograph, the more details they believed they could identify, adding to the mystery surrounding the image. The young woman later explained that she had never experienced anything like this before and had no explanation for what appeared in the photograph. She maintained that she had been completely alone at the time, making the discovery all the more unsettling. The mystery of the Brosno dragon. Hidden among the forests of western Russia, near the small town of Andriopol, lies the mysterious Lake Brosno, a body of water that has been surrounded by extraordinary stories for centuries. According to local tradition, beneath the lake's calm surface lives a gigantic dragon-like creature known as the Brosno dragon. Passed down through generations, the legend has become one of Russia's strangest mysteries, with eyewitness accounts and folklore combining to create a story that continues to fascinate researchers, historians, and those interested in unexplained creatures. The earliest accounts date back to the 13th century, when the advancing Tatar-Mongol army traveled through the region on its way toward Novgorod. According to the legends, the soldiers established a temporary camp beside Lake Brosno, allowing both the men and their horses to rest before continuing their journey. As the horses entered the water to drink, the peaceful scene was suddenly shattered by the appearance of a colossal creature emerging from the depths. Witnesses described a massive dragon rising from the lake with a thunderous roar before seizing horses in single bites and overwhelming nearby soldiers with astonishing speed and strength. The terrifying encounter reportedly forced the army to abandon the area and continue their campaign elsewhere. As the centuries passed, stories surrounding Lake Brosno only became more mysterious. Local fishermen spoke of strange sandy islands that would suddenly appear in the middle of the lake before disappearing just as unexpectedly. Many believed these formations were not islands at all, but enormous nesting mounds created by the Brosno dragon. According to the legends, anyone attempting to approach these mysterious sandbanks risked an extraordinary encounter. Without warning, the ground beneath their boats would seemingly come alive as an enormous mouth opened below the surface, drawing both water and vessel into the depths before vanishing once again beneath the lake. During the 20th century, fresh stories added another chapter to the mystery. Local accounts claimed that German soldiers operating in the region experienced unusual activity while surveying the lake. According to these reports, attempts to investigate the water awakened the enormous creature resting below. Witnesses described the dragon emerging once more, forcing the soldiers to retreat from the shoreline after several frightening encounters. These stories further strengthened the belief that the mysterious inhabitant of Lake Brosno remained very much alive. Even today, the legend continues to endure. The lake has long been associated with unexplained disappearances, particularly involving experienced fishermen and boaters who reportedly vanished without leaving behind any clear explanation. Mysterious encounter inside an old Victorian house. Moving into a beautiful Victorian house had initially felt like the beginning of a fresh chapter. The property was full of original character, with high ceilings, decorative features, and an atmosphere that perfectly suited its rich history. Determined to preserve its heritage, the new owner carefully decorated each room in keeping with the home's Victorian style. At first, everything seemed ideal for raising a family, and she happily settled in with her 3 children. Before long, however, a series of extraordinary events began to unfold that would completely transform her understanding of the house and ultimately change the course of her life. The first occurrences appeared relatively harmless. Lights seemed to have a mind of their own, illuminating before anyone had even touched the switch, or suddenly turning themselves off without explanation. At first, these strange electrical events were dismissed as faulty wiring, but the unusual activity gradually became impossible to ignore. Soon afterwards, new phenomena emerged. The sound of children laughing and running through the hallways echoed throughout the house, even though her own children were elsewhere or asleep. The footsteps and giggling sounded so real that she often searched every room, convinced someone else was inside the property. Family members also began witnessing unsettling events for themselves. During one visit, her mother and other relatives watched in disbelief as slices of pizza unexpectedly flew from the table without anyone touching them. On other occasions, small stone-like objects appeared to be thrown across rooms from nowhere, leaving everyone present with the overwhelming feeling that they were not welcome inside the house. These shared experiences convinced the family that something beyond ordinary explanation was taking place. Her young son also described conversations with someone he called Mick, explaining that this mysterious figure regularly spoke with him. At night, heavy furniture could often be heard moving across the floors. Whenever she investigated after ensuring the children were safely in bed, she would discover chairs repositioned, or, on one memorable occasion, even the family sofa had somehow shifted from its original place. These unexplained disturbances steadily increased, creating an atmosphere of constant unease throughout the home. Eventually, while the children were staying elsewhere, she invited a couple of friends to witness the strange activity firsthand. During their visit, her brother-in-law Tony stood beside her at the top of the staircase when they both noticed what appeared to be a dark figure standing silently at the bottom of the stairs. Wanting to document the experience, Tony quickly took a photograph. When they reviewed the image moments later, they were stunned to see the mysterious figure clearly visible in the exact location where they had witnessed it with their own eyes. The photograph appeared to capture a shadowy human-like presence standing motionless in the hallway, becoming one of the most compelling pieces of evidence connected with the house. Determined to understand what was happening, she began researching the history of the property and eventually sought assistance from experienced paranormal investigators. Among those who visited was paranormal investigator Sharon Clark, who personally experienced some of the unusual activity taking place within the Victorian home. The investigation strengthened her belief that the strange events were genuine and deserving of further study. The situation eventually reached its most frightening point one evening, when she witnessed something unlike anything she had ever seen before. Inside her bedroom, what appeared to be a small, swirling vortex began to form, before gradually taking on a vaguely human shape. At the same time, loud bangs echoed throughout the entire house, making it impossible to dismiss the experience as imagination. Fearing for the safety of her children, she quickly gathered a small bag of essentials, placed the children into the car, and left the property during the night. She later returned in daylight with several other people to collect the remainder of their belongings. Although the experience left her shaken, it also inspired a lifelong fascination with the paranormal. Rather than allowing fear to define her, she dedicated herself to investigating similar reports and studying unexplained phenomena. Over the years, she would encounter many more mysterious locations and unusual experiences, yet she has always regarded the Victorian house as the place where her extraordinary journey truly began. Mysterious Queen Mary image. This photograph, captured in August 2010 aboard the historic Queen Mary in Long Beach, California, has become one of those intriguing images that continues to spark discussion among those fascinated by unexplained phenomena. Taken using an early model iPhone 3, the image was never intended to document anything unusual. The photographer had simply been exploring the famous ocean liner, wandering its decks while taking casual photographs of locations that had earned a reputation for mysterious activity over the years. With its rich maritime history and countless accounts shared by visitors and staff alike, the Queen Mary has long been regarded as a place where the past never feels entirely distant. At first glance, the photograph appeared to capture nothing more than a peaceful moment aboard one of the world's most famous ships. It was only after the image was examined more closely that an extraordinary detail became impossible to ignore. Standing near the center of the walkway appeared the unmistakable outline of a solitary figure dressed in what seemed to be old-fashioned clothing. The individual appeared to be wearing a long coat and what resembled a traditional brimmed hat, clothing that looked entirely out of place aboard a modern tourist attraction on a warm summer afternoon. Even more remarkable was the figure's apparent interaction with the sunlight. Every railing, doorway, and structural beam cast long, sharply defined shadows across the deck, yet the mysterious individual appeared to cast none at all. To the photographer, this detail immediately stood out. During the moment the picture was taken, they said that they don't remember another visitor walking nearby. The deck had appeared completely empty, with no footsteps, voices, or movement interrupting the quiet atmosphere. The unusual style of clothing also seemed difficult to explain, especially considering the warm temperatures that day. Everything about the solitary figure suggested someone who belonged to another era rather than the present. As the image circulated among paranormal enthusiasts, many suggested that the photograph may have unintentionally captured one of the lingering presences long associated with the Queen Mary. Over the decades, the famous ocean liner has become the focus of countless stories involving unexplained sightings, strange sounds, and mysterious figures reportedly seen wandering its corridors and decks. For many people familiar with the ship's history, the image appeared to fit naturally alongside the many accounts already connected to the vessel. Others pointed to the remarkable composition of the photograph itself. The lighting conditions clearly demonstrated the direction of the afternoon sun, making the absence of a visible shadow beneath the mysterious figure all the more compelling. Combined with the stillness of the empty deck and the period-style appearance of the individual, the photograph has continued to stand apart from countless ordinary holiday snapshots taken aboard the Queen Mary. More than a decade later, the image continues to generate fascination among those interested in unexplained mysteries. Mysterious encounters during World War II. During the Second World War, the skies above Europe became the stage for some of the most intense aerial encounters ever witnessed. Fighter pilots from every nation pushed aviation technology to its limits as they battled high above the battlefields below. Japanese aviators became known for their fearless tactics. German engineers developed increasingly advanced aircraft. British factories worked tirelessly to produce new fighters under immense pressure, and American aircrews flew missions in some of the largest bombers ever constructed. Yet amid these dramatic wartime events, many experienced military aviators began reporting encounters with mysterious flying objects that appeared to outperform every known aircraft of the era. One of the earliest and most famous series of encounters occurred during the latter part of November 1944, when members of the United States Army Air Force's Night Fighter Squadron were flying patrol missions over the Rhine Valley near the French-German border. During one evening operation, the crew reported observing a formation of approximately 8 to 10 brilliant orange lights traveling together in perfect formation. The fiery objects glowed intensely against the darkness and appeared unlike any conventional aircraft or weapon known at the time. As the American pilots attempted to intercept the mysterious lights, they suddenly faded from view and disappeared completely, leaving the experienced airmen unable to explain what they had witnessed. Among the most remarkable accounts from this period was the testimony of Lieutenant Samuel A. Krasny. While conducting a routine flight, Krasny noticed a large wingless object shaped like a cigar moving alongside his aircraft. The strange craft emitted a reddish glow and maintained an astonishingly precise position only a short distance from his wingtip, almost as though an invisible force connected the two vehicles together. Determined to identify or evade the object, Krasny performed a series of sharp aerial maneuvers, banking, diving, and changing direction rapidly. To his amazement, the mysterious craft matched every movement flawlessly, maintaining exactly the same distance from his aircraft throughout the entire encounter. No matter how dramatically the plane changed course, the object responded instantly with perfect precision, displaying flight characteristics far beyond anything known during the war. After several minutes, the glowing object gradually dimmed before accelerating away at incredible speed, disappearing into the distance within moments. The encounter left a lasting impression on Krasny and many of his fellow airmen, who struggled to find any conventional explanation for what they had observed. As similar reports accumulated from numerous Allied crews, the mysterious objects became known as Foo Fighters, a nickname inspired by the popular Smokey Stover comic strip. Decades later, these extraordinary wartime encounters continue to stand among the most fascinating military UFO reports ever recorded, reminding researchers that some of the greatest mysteries of the skies were witnessed not by civilians, but by highly trained combat aviators whose profession depended upon careful observation. The Tully Nest Incident. The morning of the 19th of January, 1966, began like countless others in the tropical countryside of far north Queensland, Australia. The humid air hung heavily over the sugarcane fields and wetlands surrounding the quiet town of Tully, while local farmers prepared for another ordinary day of work. Nothing about that peaceful morning suggested it would soon become one of the most famous dates in Australian UFO history. Yet, within the space of only a few moments, an unexpected encounter would transform this remote farming community into the focus of worldwide attention and establish one of the most enduring physical evidence cases in the study of unidentified flying objects. The central figure in this remarkable event was George Pedley, a young banana farmer who was working near Horseshoe Lagoon, an isolated swampy area close to the Tully River. As he drove his tractor through the property, the silence of the morning was suddenly interrupted by an intense hissing sound, unlike anything he had heard before. The strange noise echoed across the lagoon, immediately drawing his attention toward the source. Looking ahead, Pedley witnessed an astonishing sight. Rising from the reeds was a metallic object, unlike any conventional aircraft he had ever seen. According to his account, the craft was blue-grey in color and shaped like a large flying saucer, measuring approximately 25 feet across and around 9 feet high. It hovered only briefly before spinning at extraordinary speed. The object then performed a shallow dive, climbed almost vertically into the sky, and disappeared into the distance, leaving behind what Pedley described as a cloud of bluish vapor. The entire encounter lasted only seconds, yet it would remain etched in his memory for the rest of his life. Although startled, Pedley's curiosity quickly overcame his initial shock. After the mysterious object vanished, he cautiously approached the exact location from which it had risen. Waiting for him was something even more extraordinary. Floating among the reeds was a perfectly formed circular nest, unlike anything he had ever encountered in the Australian wilderness. The formation measured roughly 9 meters in diameter and appeared almost perfectly symmetrical. However, what fascinated observers most was not simply its size, but the condition of the reeds themselves. Rather than being crushed flat by some heavy object pressing down from above, the reeds had been uprooted from the muddy floor beneath the lagoon. They had then become tightly woven together in an intricate clockwise spiral, forming a thick floating platform that was capable of supporting the weight of a person standing upon it. The owner of the property, Albert Penisi, personally entered the swamp to examine the formation more closely. His inspection confirmed that the floating mat remained remarkably solid, despite being composed entirely of aquatic vegetation. Even more puzzling was the condition of the surrounding area. Outside the circular formation, the reeds appeared completely untouched. There was no widespread disturbance, no signs of heavy machinery, and no evidence that anyone had attempted to construct such a remarkable feature by conventional means. News of the discovery spread rapidly throughout Queensland. Journalists descended upon the small farming community almost immediately, eager to photograph the mysterious nest and interview those who had witnessed the extraordinary events. Within days, hundreds of curious visitors arrived at Horseshoe Lagoon, hoping to see the strange formation for themselves. Before long, Tully had become Australia's own UFO hotspot, attracting researchers, investigators, photographers, and enthusiasts from across the country. As public fascination continued to grow, government agencies also became involved. Representatives from the Royal Australian Air Force and the Department of Air examined the site and collected plant and environmental samples in an effort to determine what had occurred. After completing their investigation, officials proposed that the circular formation had likely been created by a rare weather phenomenon. Suggestions included a miniature tornado, a waterspout, a whirlwind, or one of the tropical willy-willies commonly associated with northern Australia. While these explanations appeared reasonable on the surface, many researchers believed they failed to explain the unique characteristics of the formation. A powerful wind vortex would ordinarily scatter vegetation in random directions, yet the Tully nest displayed remarkable order and precision. The reeds had not simply bent over, they had been lifted from the mud, carefully intertwined, and arranged into an almost flawless spiral, while the surrounding vegetation remained largely unaffected. To many observers, this level of organization suggested something far beyond an ordinary weather event. Additional theories soon emerged. Some proposed that groups of ducks swimming repeatedly in circles could have created the nest. Others suggested unusual insect activity or reed-eating grubs had weakened portions of the vegetation. Yet each explanation struggled to account for the enormous size of the formation, its remarkable symmetry, and its unusual floating structure. Local residents who knew the lagoon well remained unconvinced that ordinary wildlife could produce such an extraordinary result. Over time, the Tully saucer nest achieved worldwide recognition within UFO research circles. Unlike sightings involving only eyewitness testimony, this case offered investigators something tangible to examine. Photographs documented the formation extensively, numerous independent witnesses visited the site, and government agencies officially investigated the incident. The combination of physical evidence and eyewitness testimony helped establish the Tully encounter as one of Australia's most compelling unexplained mysteries. Perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of the incident emerged many years later. During the 1980s, English artists Doug Bower and Dave Chorley publicly admitted creating hundreds of elaborate crop formations throughout the British countryside using simple wooden planks and ropes. Their confession attracted international headlines because they revealed that their inspiration had originated from media reports describing the Tully incident back in 1966. While Bower and Chorley's confession explained the origin of many famous crop formations across England, it also highlighted how different the Australian case truly was. The British formations appeared in dry agricultural fields, where people could quietly work under cover of darkness. Horseshoe Lagoon, however, was a muddy swamp filled with deep water and thick reeds. Constructing such an enormous floating spiral overnight without leaving evidence or attracting attention would have been an extraordinarily difficult undertaking, reinforcing the uniqueness of the original Australian event. For George Pedley himself, the experience proved life-changing. Although his account brought international attention, it also resulted in years of unwanted publicity and criticism. As interest in the case continued, Pedley gradually withdrew from interviews and preferred to live quietly away from the spotlight. Despite this, he consistently maintained the same description of what he had witnessed that remarkable morning beside Horseshoe Lagoon. The mystery of the Lake Labinkir monster. Hidden deep within the frozen wilderness of eastern Siberia lies one of the most mysterious lakes on Earth. Situated in the remote Oymyakon district of the Sakha Republic, Lake Labinkir has fascinated explorers, scientists, and local communities for centuries. Surrounded by one of the coldest inhabited regions in the world, where winter temperatures regularly fall well below -50 degrees Celsius, the lake possesses an unusual characteristic that has puzzled observers for generations. Even during the harshest winters, portions of its dark waters refuse to freeze completely. This remarkable phenomenon has only strengthened the ancient belief that something enormous lives beneath its surface. For countless generations, the Yakut people have spoken of a gigantic creature known as the Labinkirsky Chort, more commonly referred to as the Labinkir Devil. According to local tradition, this enormous beast is the undisputed ruler of the lake, lurking silently beneath the water before emerging without warning. Stories describe a powerful predator capable of overwhelming large land animals, overturning wooden fishing boats, and dragging dogs and reindeer into the icy depths. These terrifying accounts became rooted in regional folklore, with many families avoiding certain areas of the lake altogether out of respect for the mysterious creature believed to inhabit its waters. For many years, these remarkable stories remained confined to local legend. However, everything changed during the middle of the 20th century. In the month of July 1953, respected Soviet geologist Viktor Tverdoklubov was carrying out a geological expedition near Lake Labinkir when he experienced something that challenged everything he understood about the natural world. While observing the calm surface of the lake, Tverdoklubov and a companion noticed an enormous dark object moving steadily through the water. Unlike floating debris or an ordinary fish, the creature's body rose well above the surface, creating a substantial wake behind it as it traveled across the lake. Tverdoklubov carefully documented the encounter, describing an immense animal with a broad head and an unusually large jaw that reminded him of both a giant beak and a prehistoric reptile. His detailed report attracted considerable attention because it came from a respected scientist known for his careful observations rather than sensational claims. The publication of his account transformed the Labinkir devil from a regional legend into an international cryptozoological mystery. Researchers from across Russia became increasingly interested in the lake, hoping modern technology might finally uncover the truth hidden beneath its dark waters. As sonar equipment, underwater cameras, and diving technology improved over the following decades, several expeditions traveled into the remote Siberian wilderness to investigate the mystery firsthand. One of the most ambitious investigations took place during the early years of the 21st century, when members of the Russian Geographical Society organized an expedition to explore the depths of Lake Labinkir. Despite the extreme weather and hazardous conditions, divers descended into the freezing water while sophisticated sonar equipment scanned the lakebed below. Although the team did not encounter the legendary creature directly, they recorded several unusual anomalies that deepened rather than resolved the mystery. Among the most intriguing discoveries were sonar images that appeared to reveal enormous skeletal remains resting on the bottom of the lake. Some researchers believed they were observing massive jawbones belonging to an unidentified creature unlike any known species inhabiting the region today. Unfortunately, the severe depth of the lake, combined with the dangerously cold temperatures and logistical challenges of working in such an isolated location, prevented the expedition from recovering the remains for laboratory examination. As a result, the mysterious objects continue to rest beneath the lake, preserving one of Siberia's greatest unanswered questions. Numerous explanations have been proposed over the years. Some researchers suggest that an unusually large northern pike may account for occasional sightings, while others have pointed toward the possibility of an enormous Kaluga sturgeon somehow finding its way into the isolated lake through underground waterways. Geological theories have also suggested that underwater thermal vents and escaping gas pockets may explain both the sections of water that resist freezing and some of the unusual disturbances observed on the lake's surface. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the detailed eyewitness descriptions recorded over generations. Witnesses consistently describe an enormous creature with a broad head, tremendous size, and deliberate movements unlike those of any ordinary fish. Many also report aggressive behavior that has become central to the enduring legend of the Labinkir devil. Mysterious Atlantic Hotel image. The historic Atlantic Hotel in Berlin, Maryland, has long attracted visitors with its timeless architecture, elegant decor, and rich connection to the past. Over the years, many guests have claimed that the building possesses an unusual atmosphere, describing unexplained sensations, strange sounds, and fleeting glimpses of mysterious figures. Among the many stories connected to the hotel, one photograph has become especially well known after appearing to capture something that was completely unnoticed when the picture was taken. The photograph was originally intended to showcase the hotel's beautiful interior. Standing at one end of a long, seemingly empty hallway, the photographer admired the vintage furnishings, polished wooden floors, and soft lighting before taking a single picture. At the time, nothing appeared out of the ordinary. The corridor looked completely deserted, and there was no indication that anyone else was standing in the distance. It was only later, while reviewing the image, that something remarkable came to light. After zooming into the far end of the hallway, the photographer noticed what appeared to be a mysterious human-shaped figure standing quietly near the furniture. According to those who examined the photograph, the figure possessed a semi-transparent appearance, blending into its surroundings while still maintaining a distinct human outline. The unusual transparency immediately caught the attention of paranormal enthusiasts. many of whom pointed out that the appearance closely matched numerous eyewitness descriptions of ghostly apparitions reported throughout history. As the image spread across paranormal communities, it quickly became the subject of intense discussion. Many viewers remarked that the figure appeared calm and motionless, almost as though it had been quietly observing the hallway long before the camera captured the scene. Others noted that its translucent appearance made it seem noticeably different from any ordinary visitor who might have been walking through the building. Mysterious image taken during a Harry Potter tour. Among the many photographs that have emerged over the years claiming to capture unexplained phenomena, few have generated as much discussion as the mysterious image reportedly taken aboard a historic steam train used during the filming of the Harry Potter movies. What appeared to be an ordinary photograph of passengers enjoying a themed railway event soon became the center of an extraordinary mystery after a ghostly figure was discovered, standing quietly in the carriage. The photograph was taken by Mickey Vermooch during a 1940s themed event held aboard the historic train. Throughout the journey, passengers enjoyed the nostalgic atmosphere as the railway recreated scenes from a bygone era. Wanting to preserve the occasion, Mickey casually took several photographs using his mobile phone, capturing different views inside the carriage. At the time, nothing appeared unusual. The journey continued peacefully, and eventually the train came to a stop, allowing everyone to disembark. It was only later, while reviewing the photographs, that Mickey noticed something astonishing. Standing in the aisle of the carriage was what appeared to be the transparent figure of a young girl. Dressed in pale clothing and surrounded by an unusual glow, the mysterious figure seemed almost illuminated from within. Even more remarkable was the fact that there had been no children traveling in that carriage during the journey. In fact, Mickey recalled not seeing any children anywhere on the train that day, making the appearance of the young figure all the more baffling. Unable to explain what he had captured, Mickey immediately showed the photograph to members of the train staff. According to his account, they were equally surprised by the image, explaining that they had never witnessed anything quite like it before. Hoping for a more technical opinion, Mickey also approached the event's official photographer. After carefully examining the image, the photographer commented that the unusual light surrounding the figure resembled a hologram, yet he could not offer any conventional explanation for its appearance. The image appeared authentic, leaving everyone who examined it equally fascinated. The photograph quickly attracted attention among paranormal enthusiasts, many of whom believed it represented one of the clearest examples of a spirit ever captured on camera. Some suggested that the young girl may have been connected to the long history of Britain's railways, while others believed she was simply passing through, unknowingly appearing in the photograph for a brief moment before disappearing once again. The mystery of Ilenia Carisi. The disappearance of Ilenia Carisi remains one of the most enduring and heartbreaking mysteries in modern Italian history. For decades, the unanswered questions surrounding her fate have continued to captivate investigators, journalists, and members of the public alike. Unlike many missing persons cases that gradually fade from public memory, Ilenia's story has remained firmly in the spotlight due to her family's worldwide fame, the unusual circumstances surrounding her final days, and the complete absence of any definitive conclusion. More than 3 decades after she was last seen, her disappearance continues to symbolize the anguish experienced by families left without answers and the profound mystery that can surround a single unexplained event. Born into one of Italy's most celebrated families, Ilenia Carisi grew up surrounded by music, film, and international recognition. She was the eldest daughter of legendary entertainers Albano and Romina Power, while her maternal grandparents were celebrated Hollywood figures Tyrone Power and Linda Christian. Despite being raised in an environment of success and public attention, those who knew Ilenia often described her as thoughtful, independent, and interested in literature, philosophy, and different cultures. Although she occasionally appeared on television, including serving as the letter turner on the Italian version of Wheel of Fortune, she reportedly longed for experiences far removed from celebrity life. While studying at King's College London, Ilenia increasingly desired a different path. Rather than continuing along the predictable route expected of someone from such a famous family, she wanted to explore the world firsthand. Toward the end of 1993, she temporarily paused her studies and began traveling alone throughout the Americas. Her goal was to meet musicians, artists, and people living outside conventional society while gathering material for a book she hoped to write. Friends and relatives understood that this journey represented far more than tourism. It was an attempt to discover herself beyond the expectations that accompanied her surname. Eventually, her travels brought her to New Orleans, Louisiana, a city famous for its vibrant music, rich history, and unique atmosphere. Carrying little more than a backpack, notebooks, and a few personal belongings, Ylenia settled into the modest Le Dale Hotel on St. Charles Avenue. Compared with the comfortable surroundings she had always known, the hotel reflected the simpler lifestyle she had chosen during her travels. During her stay, she met Alexander Masekela, a street musician who described himself as a spiritual teacher. According to reports from the time, the pair spent considerable time together discussing music, philosophy, and life. Hotel employees later stated that although the two shared accommodation, they occupied separate beds, leading many to believe that their relationship was based more upon conversation and shared interests than romance. Nevertheless, Masekela quickly became one of the final known people to spend significant time with Ylenia. Her family reportedly viewed the situation with increasing concern. During the final telephone conversation between Ylenia and her parents on New Year's Eve in 1993, disagreements reportedly arose regarding her living conditions and the company she was keeping. Neither Ylenia nor her family could have imagined that it would be the final conversation they would ever share. According to official records, the 6th of January 1994 became the defining day in the mystery. Ylenia reportedly left the Le Dale Hotel, but something about her departure immediately stood out. She left behind her luggage, clothing, notebooks, passport, and many personal possessions. Nothing suggested she intended to begin another lengthy journey. After walking away from the hotel, she simply vanished. When communication with their daughter suddenly ceased, Albano and Romina Power traveled to the United States, hoping to assist in the search. Investigators quickly focused their attention on Alexander Masekela, partly because he had been one of the last known people to see Ylenia. Their suspicions reportedly increased when it emerged that he remained in the hotel room after her disappearance and allegedly attempted to use her unsigned traveler's checks and passport. Despite extensive questioning, Masekela consistently denied any involvement in her disappearance. With no physical evidence linking him to a crime and no signs of violence discovered, investigators had insufficient grounds to pursue further action. He was eventually released and later disappeared from public attention himself, leaving another unanswered chapter in the story. Perhaps the most widely discussed development came from security guard Albert Cordova, who was working near the Mississippi River in Waldenberg Park during the evening of the 6th of January. According to his account, he encountered a young blonde woman sitting alone near the riverbank after the park had closed. After informing her that she could not remain there, the woman reportedly replied that she belonged in the water before entering the river. Cordova later stated that when investigators showed him photographs of Ylenia, he believed she closely resembled the woman he had seen that evening. This testimony prompted an extensive search of the Mississippi River by the United States Coast Guard. Despite considerable effort, nothing connected to Ylenia was ever recovered. The absence of physical evidence ensured that uncertainty continued to surround the investigation. Without definitive proof supporting any single explanation, numerous possibilities remained open. Over the following years, reported sightings emerged from many different countries. Some individuals claimed they had encountered Ylenia living quietly under another identity, while others believed she had deliberately abandoned her former life in search of complete anonymity. None of these reports could ever be verified, yet each new claim briefly reignited hope before ultimately fading away. The mystery took another unexpected turn years later, when investigators explored a possible connection between Ylenia and unidentified remains connected to Keith Hunter Jesperson, sometimes referred to as the Happy Face Killer. One unidentified woman reportedly resembled Ylenia, prompting forensic specialists to collect DNA samples from her parents. For a brief period, many believed long-awaited answers might finally emerge. However, laboratory testing ultimately excluded any connection, leaving investigators exactly where they had begun. As the years passed, the emotional burden upon Ylenia's family became increasingly apparent. Albano gradually accepted the possibility that the Mississippi River account may have represented the final moments of his daughter's journey. He publicly expressed his belief that the available evidence pointed toward that tragic conclusion, despite the absence of physical confirmation. Romina Power, however, remained unable to accept that explanation. She consistently maintained hope that Ylenia was still alive somewhere in the world. Without definitive proof, she believed it remained possible that her daughter had chosen another life, perhaps living quietly under a different identity or recovering from circumstances that prevented her from returning home. This profound difference in belief reportedly created enormous emotional strain within the family. As the years continued, that disagreement became one of several factors contributing to the gradual breakdown of Albano and Romina Power's marriage. After decades together as both musical partners and husband and wife, the overwhelming grief surrounding Ylenia's disappearance ultimately became impossible to overcome. Their separation marked another heartbreaking consequence of a mystery that had already affected countless lives. During the month of November in 2013, Albano petitioned an Italian court to have Ylenia legally declared deceased. Although Romina publicly opposed the request, believing hope still remained, the court eventually granted the petition during the month of December 2014, legally recognizing the 6th of January in 1994 as the date of her presumed passing. While the legal decision resolved administrative matters, it did little to answer the questions that had haunted the family for decades. Strange humanoid caught on camera. This mysterious photograph that surfaced online has drawn widespread attention due to the unusual humanoid figure captured within it. Shared originally through social media, the image appears to have been taken in a park during the evening hours, illuminated by a bright full moon. The scene shows a quiet, tree-lined space, peaceful at first glance, yet dominated by the presence of a small, upright figure moving across the grass with surprising clarity. Very little is known about the origin of the photograph. The individual who captured the image stated that they were casually taking nighttime photographs in the park, an activity that already sets the stage for something out of the ordinary. The image was reportedly reviewed only after the photographs were taken, at which point the humanoid figure became apparent. No one present at the time recalls seeing the figure directly, suggesting it may have been moving quickly or blending into the environment with remarkable effectiveness. The humanoid itself is difficult to classify. Its form appears bipedal, with elongated limbs and a forward-leaning posture that suggests motion rather than stillness. The body seems partially blurred, consistent with movement, yet the outline remains distinct enough to rule out simple photographic artifacts. Observers estimate the creature's height to be somewhere between 3 and 4 feet, with a weight near 50 pounds, though these figures remain approximate due to the lack of reference points. One of the most striking aspects of the humanoid is its texture. The surface of its body appears rough and uneven, resembling bark rather than skin. Its coloration blends browns and greens, closely matching the surrounding trees and foliage. What appears to be hair looks more like clusters of leaves or natural growth rather than anything mammalian. This organic appearance has led many to believe the humanoid is closely connected to the natural environment, possibly adapted to move unnoticed through wooded areas. Despite its small stature, the humanoid gives the impression of purpose. Its posture suggests forward momentum, as though it was traveling across the park rather than wandering aimlessly. The positioning of its limbs indicates balance and coordination, traits associated with intelligent movement. There is no sign of distress or surprise in its body language, which adds to the sense that it was aware of its surroundings, even if it remained unseen by the photographer. Throughout history, mythology has described beings connected to forests and wild places, often depicted as guardians or watchers rather than aggressors. While such beings are usually portrayed as much smaller, the humanoid in this image appears larger and more physically grounded, bridging the gap between legend and physical presence. The photograph challenges long-held assumptions about what may exist beyond human awareness. Taken as a genuine encounter, the image serves as a reminder that even familiar spaces can harbor the unknown. Parks, forests, and green spaces often feel safe and predictable, yet the photograph suggests that something else may be moving quietly through them, especially during the stillness of night. The humanoid captured in the image stands as a silent figure, caught briefly in moonlight, offering a rare glimpse into a world that remains largely unseen. Mysterious apparition. This mysterious photograph taken in November 2015 at Hinsdale House has become one of the most unsettling images associated with the property. The image was captured casually, without any intention of documenting paranormal activity. At the time the photo was taken, everyone present in the house was gathered together in the kitchen, engaged in conversation and unaware of anything unusual taking place elsewhere in the building. It was only later, when the image was reviewed, that something deeply disturbing was noticed. In the living room doorway, standing partially in shadow, appears a tall, dark figure with a clearly defined outline. The shape is humanoid, yet lacks visible facial features or details. The figure appears solid rather than transparent, standing upright as though observing the room. No one present recalls seeing anyone in that location at the time the photograph was taken. Those familiar with paranormal research quickly identified the figure as resembling what is commonly referred to as a shadow man, or more specifically, the Hat Man. This type of entity has been reported across the world for decades. Witnesses often describe a tall, dark silhouette, sometimes wearing what appears to be a wide-brimmed hat, silently watching from doorways or corners of rooms. The figure in the Hinsdale House photograph closely matches these long-standing descriptions. The setting only adds to the weight of the image. The Hinsdale House, located in Hinsdale, has a long history of reported unexplained activity, including shadow figures, strange sounds, and feelings of being watched. Many visitors claim the house seems to respond to human presence, with activity increasing when groups are gathered together. What makes this photograph particularly chilling is its randomness. There was no attempt to provoke activity, no staged setup, and no expectation of capturing anything unusual. The figure appears uninvited, unnoticed, and entirely aware. For many who have studied the image, it represents a rare and authentic glimpse of a shadow entity, quietly standing in a place already known for its mysteries, reminding viewers that some presences reveal themselves only when no one is looking. Mysterious skunk ape image. The images known as the Myakka skunk ape photographs remain among the most intriguing visual evidence connected to the long-standing legend of the skunk ape. These photographs were reportedly taken in Sarasota County, Florida, and first came to public attention on the 29th of December, 2000. They were mailed anonymously to the local sheriff's department by a woman who believed she had encountered something extraordinary in her backyard. According to her account, the woman initially assumed the creature was an escaped orangutan. It appeared late at night, startled by the flash of her camera, and froze briefly among the surrounding foliage. Over the course of 3 consecutive nights, the creature returned, each time lingering near her porch and taking apples she had left outside. She described it as extremely large, covered in dark, shaggy hair, and possessing an overwhelming odor that lingered long after it vanished back into the trees. Alongside the smell, she reported hearing deep, rhythmic whoomp-like sounds that she could feel as much as hear. The woman expressed serious concern for the safety of her grandchildren, who frequently visited her home. She also feared that the creature, due to its size and apparent lack of fear, might wander onto a nearby highway and cause a serious accident. Acting on the advice of a friend who previously worked in animal control, she chose to alert law enforcement rather than confront the situation herself. Her decision to remain anonymous only added to the mystery surrounding the photographs. The skunk ape legend itself predates these images by decades. Sightings in Florida have been reported since the early 20th century, often describing a creature similar to Bigfoot but adapted to swampy, subtropical environments. Unlike its northern counterpart, this creature is said to be slightly smaller, more agile, and strongly associated with marshlands, palmetto thickets, and remote wetlands. Eyewitness reports consistently describe the creature as standing between 6 and 8 feet tall, with long arms, broad shoulders, and dense, dark fur that often appears matted or dirty. Some researchers believe this appearance may result from the creature coating itself in mud, a survival tactic that could help regulate temperature, deter insects, and mask scent in humid environments. This behavior would also explain why many sightings describe the creature as foul-smelling and unkempt. Supporters of the skunk ape theory argue that the figure in the Myakka photographs does not resemble a bear, which is often cited as a convenient explanation. The visible limb proportions, apparent facial structure, and upright posture seen among the palm fronds appear inconsistent with known wildlife in the region. The creature's eyeshine, body mass, and positioning suggest awareness and intent rather than random animal movement. Taken together, the photographs and the accompanying account continue to fuel belief that the skunk ape may represent a real undiscovered species. Mysterious trail camera image. This trail camera image, showing what many believe to be a ghostly child apparition, has become one of the more unsettling examples of unexplained phenomena captured by modern technology. Trail cameras are designed for wildlife observation, not for documenting anything beyond the natural world, which is precisely why this image has drawn so much attention. Placed in a remote woodland area, the camera was intended to monitor nocturnal animals moving through the forest under cover of darkness. On the night in question, the camera was operating normally, capturing familiar images of deer and other wildlife. Then, at approximately 4 in the morning on the 22nd of August, 2013, the motion sensor was triggered once again. What appeared in the resulting image was something entirely unexpected. Alongside a deer stands a faint, translucent humanoid figure resembling a young child. The figure appears upright and still, its shape clearly distinct from the surrounding vegetation and unlike any known animal. What has troubled many observers is the apparent proximity between the deer and the figure. Deer are widely known to be alert and easily startled, often fleeing at the slightest unfamiliar sound or movement. Yet in this image, the animal appears calm, standing mere feet away from the apparition. Many believe this detail alone suggests the figure was not a physical human presence, as approaching a deer so closely without causing it to flee would be extremely difficult, especially at night. The apparition itself appears partially transparent, with softened edges and a pale glow that contrasts sharply with the solid form of the deer. Its proportions are humanoid, small in stature, and consistent with the shape of a child. There are no visible facial details, yet the outline is clear enough to suggest posture and intent. The figure does not appear to be moving, giving the impression of a lingering presence rather than a fleeting anomaly. As the image circulated, it quickly drew the attention of paranormal researchers and enthusiasts. Technical examinations focused on the camera's settings, infrared lighting, and environmental conditions. No evidence of image manipulation or equipment malfunction was identified. The metadata aligned with the camera's standard operation, and the surrounding frames showed nothing unusual that could explain the figure as a distortion or reflection. Adding to the mystery, individuals familiar with the woodland area reported a long history of unexplained experiences. Some described feelings of being watched, sudden temperature changes, or unexplained sounds during nighttime hours. These accounts, while anecdotal, strengthened the belief that the area may hold residual energy from past events. For those who accept the image as genuine, it serves as a powerful reminder that the boundary between the physical world and unseen realms may be thinner than commonly believed. Mysterious apparition caught on camera. This mysterious photograph has drawn intense attention due to the strange figure captured at its center. According to the owner, the image was taken many years ago inside a building known for its long and storied history. At the moment the photograph was captured, only 2 adults were present in the room. The small figure that appears in the image was not physically there, making its presence all the more unsettling. The owner has stated firmly that the photograph is authentic and unaltered, emphasizing that what appears in the image was completely unexpected. The figure itself resembles a young girl, standing upright and facing the camera. Her form is pale and luminous, almost glowing, with softened edges that give her an unreal mist-like quality. Her facial features appear faint but recognizable, with dark eye shapes and a small mouth that seems frozen in a neutral expression. The way the light interacts with her body makes her appear partially translucent, as though she exists somewhere between the physical world and something else entirely. What makes the image particularly disturbing is the clarity of the figure when compared to the surroundings. The furniture, walls, and doorway appear solid and grounded, while the girl seems detached from the environment, as if she does not fully belong to the space. Her posture is calm and still, conveying neither fear nor movement, which many interpret as a sign of a lingering presence rather than a fleeting shadow or light anomaly. Those who have examined the image closely often describe it as a classic example of a paranormal manifestation. The absence of any child in the room at the time, combined with the building's deep history, strengthens the belief that the photograph captured something unseen by the human eye in that moment. Rather than appearing threatening, the figure seems quietly observant, adding an emotional weight to the image that lingers long after it is viewed. The mystery of Eric Robinson. In the sprawling outskirts of Melbourne, Australia, Eric Robinson and his girlfriend Marilyn Coulsett lived contrasting lives. While Marilyn Coulsett dedicated her days to the education of young minds, working as the principal of the Valkstone Primary School, located in East Bentley, Eric embraced a life of exploration and adventure and would often go on long trips out in the middle of nowhere, often leaving behind a worried girlfriend. Despite Marilyn's worries, Eric Robinson was an incredibly experienced outdoorsman and hiker, holding years of experience traversing numerous trails throughout his home country, as well as mastering some of the most difficult trails across New Zealand, Scotland, California, and Utah. Eric Robinson was no stranger to national parks and month-long trips. With an unyielding passion for the great outdoors, Eric meticulously planned each and every one of his outdoor excursions, immersing himself in extensive research about each region he ventured into. However, despite his expertise and careful preparations, Eric's disappearance on the Highline Trail in the Winters Wilderness, Utah, remains a perplexing mystery and is a telling sign of the strange nature of the Winters Mountains and their unexplainable cluster of missing persons reports. Equipped with a red backpack, a sturdy tent, a personal sleeping bag, some bear spray, an expensive and well-tested personal transponder, his cell phone, and a sufficient 14-day food supply for his 10-day, 60-mile hike, Eric embarked on his anticipated adventure sometime in late July. According to Eric's girlfriend, Marilyn would last see Eric Robinson when she dropped him off at the Melbourne airport and said her goodbyes as he began his trip to the United States. According to close friends of Eric, he was picked up after arriving at Salt Lake City Airport and would stay his first night at his friend's house and enjoy an afternoon and evening together. It would be during this time while at his friend's house that Eric Robinson would go over the details surrounding his upcoming trek and inform the group that he had expected to arrive at his first rendezvous point during the afternoon of the 7th of August near Mirror Lake, and to expect to hear from him and see him at around that time. Interestingly enough, friends would also claim that Eric Robinson had talked about how his vast amount of experience traveling across harsher terrains would make this short hike a breeze. On the following morning of the 28th of July, Eric Robinson would be dropped off by his friends at the Highline Trailhead, ready to immerse himself in the vast surrounding wilderness. According to his friends, Eric was last seen in high spirits and had done one last preliminary check of his supplies to ensure that everything was in good quality and sufficient for his trip. It would be on the 2nd of August that Eric Robinson would last be seen before being reported missing. According to investigators, it would be sometime in the afternoon that a troop of Boy Scouts and their scout leaders would happen to coincidentally cross paths with Eric Robinson while the group was near the Yellowstone Creek drainage area, a few miles away from the Highline Trail that Eric had supposedly originally been scheduled to use. The leaders would later tell investigators that, at the time of the sighting, Eric Robinson appeared to have had an upbeat demeanor and was in excellent physical condition, telling the troop about his plans to use the Highline Trail to his advantage. After hearing Eric's claim that he planned to stay on the Highline Trail, though the troop was nowhere near the trail, the troop's leader decided to pull out their maps and make some comparisons. After about an hour, Eric Robinson was reoriented and redirected back to the correct trail after realizing that he had been off of the trail for a little over an hour. It would be during this time, in the late afternoon, that Eric Robinson would bid the group farewell and walk in the direction designated by the troop leader in the right direction. As the appointed day of Eric's expected arrival at Mirror Lake on the 7th of August came and went without any sign of the experienced outdoorsman, his close friends grew increasingly concerned and believed that something terrible may have happened to Eric, as it was unlike him completely to not stick rigidly to his trail itinerary. Fearing the worst, the group of friends contacted the United States Forest Service and the local Duchesne County Sheriff's Department to help organize a search and rescue effort for their missing friend. Local newspapers would claim that an experienced sheriff by the name of Travis Mitchell was assigned to the case and would organize the search and rescue operation, getting volunteers and trained men in the areas along the Highline Trail within the hour of being contacted. The search efforts involved a comprehensive array of resources, including helicopters, equestrians, all-terrain vehicles, a team of experienced bloodhounds, and local campers and hikers who decided to volunteer. Sheriff Mitchell also contacted Marilyn, who attested to Eric's excellent health and unwavering passion for hiking and exploration, and gathered all of the information he needed about Eric's expected travels and itinerary. Eric's extensive preparations, including carrying extra supplies for unforeseen circumstances, showcased his competence and dedication to safety and helped put the search and rescue volunteers at ease, allowing them to do a more thorough examination of each gridded area before moving on to the next. Unfortunately for investigators, despite 15 days of relentless searching, the rescue teams found no trace of Eric Robinson. Based on the Boy Scouts' sighting on August 2nd, the search area was somewhat confined, yet their efforts yielded no breakthroughs. Recognizing that the search operations were nearing their conclusion, Marilyn made the difficult decision to travel to Utah. As the 22nd of August marked the official termination date of all search operations, Marilyn valiantly continued her quest to find Eric by distributing posters and photographs at various trailheads throughout the area. Regrettably, all endeavors to locate Eric proved fruitless, and the equipment he carried has never been found. Oddly enough, Eric's tragic hike and disappearance was reported just 1 mile west of Cuberant Lake, the same location where 12-year-old Garrett Bardsley had vanished without a trace back on the 20th of August in 2004, leaving behind an enduring mystery. Eric's disappearance further deepens the eerie connection between hikers and the mysterious Uintas Wilderness, as both he and Garrett were last seen by Boy Scouts, raising unsettling questions about the region's inexplicable nature. Eric Robinson's disappearance on the Highline Trail has baffled investigators and outdoor enthusiasts alike. Despite his thorough preparations and adherence to safety measures, he vanished into the vast expanse of the Uintas Wilderness, leaving no clues to his whereabouts. The hole in the Sphinx's head. The mystery of the hole in the head of the Great Sphinx of Giza has fascinated researchers, historians, and mystery enthusiasts for generations. Standing on the Giza Plateau in Giza, the massive limestone monument is believed to have been constructed during the reign of Khafra, around the middle of the 3rd millennium before the Common Era. Despite centuries of study, the Sphinx continues to guard its secrets, and few features inspire more speculation than the strange cavity at the top of its head. The Sphinx has endured thousands of years of natural forces and human attention, yet the hole remains clearly visible. It is roughly rectangular in shape and appears deliberate rather than random, which has led many to believe it was part of the original design. Some ancient researchers have long claimed that the opening is not merely a surface feature, but the entrance to deeper internal structures hidden within the Sphinx itself. According to these accounts, the hole leads downward into narrow corridors that extend beneath the monument and connect to a vast underground network beneath the Giza Plateau. For decades, claims of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx and surrounding pyramids were dismissed as legend. However, modern ground-penetrating radar surveys have reportedly identified large voids beneath the plateau, lending weight to the idea that ancient builders created extensive subterranean spaces. Supporters of this theory argue that the hole in the Sphinx's head may have been a maintenance shaft, ventilation opening, or ceremonial access point to these underground corridors. The possibility of a concealed labyrinth beneath one of the most famous monuments on Earth continues to fuel intense debate. Another enduring theory suggests that the hole once held a sacred object. Some believe it may have served as a receptacle for a powerful relic, such as a crystal or gemstone, used in ritual practices or symbolic ceremonies. Similar cavities have been identified in other ancient Egyptian structures, including the Pyramid of Khafra and sections of the Temple of Karnak. These parallels suggest a shared architectural or spiritual purpose, reinforcing the idea that the Sphinx's hole was intentionally created rather than accidentally formed. Astronomical interpretations offer another compelling explanation. The Sphinx is famously associated with celestial symbolism, particularly its alignment with the constellation Leo. Some researchers believe the hole in the head may have been part of an astronomical observation system precisely positioned to align with key stars during the summer solstice. Such alignments could have been used to mark seasonal changes, agricultural cycles, or significant ceremonial dates. If true, the hole would represent not damage or decay, but advanced knowledge of the heavens embedded into stone. Despite these theories, some scholars maintain that natural processes are responsible. The Sphinx has spent millennia exposed to desert winds, blowing sand, and temperature extremes. Over time, erosion can produce surprisingly geometric shapes in limestone. From this perspective, the hole may simply be the result of gradual wear, later altered by restoration efforts or ancient repairs. Even so, the regularity of the opening continues to challenge purely natural explanations. What makes the mystery so enduring is the absence of a definitive conclusion. No excavation has fully explored the interior beneath the hole, and access remains heavily restricted. As a result, speculation continues, blending archaeology, astronomy, and ancient tradition. The mysterious disappearance of Alexander Kruk. On July 17, 2020, Alexander Kruk, a 33-year-old individual, went missing in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance revolve around his connection with a woman he met online and his intentions to meet her in Mexico. Since then, there has been no trace of him. Alexander Michael Kruk, born on January 15, 1987, hails from Illinois, but predominantly grew up in the vibrant city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin during his formative years. Throughout his journey, he has assumed the esteemed role of a proud father. Kruk, hailing from the charming city of Waukesha, Wisconsin, received his education at Waukesha South High School, where he delved into his passion for athletics. Demonstrating remarkable talent, Kruk showcased his excellence as an athlete, particularly in the game of baseball. Kruk's life took a turn for the worse during his high school years when he started associating himself with the wrong group of people. Unfortunately, he succumbed to the depths of drug addiction, which became a significant obstacle in his life. Concerned about his well-being, his family made efforts to get him the help he needed by sending him to a rehabilitation center. Following his graduation, Kruk pursued higher education at the University of Wisconsin and Milwaukee Area Technical College, focusing on the field of CNC programming. Additionally, he gained practical experience as a welder subsequent to completing his college education. During the period when he went missing, Kruk was residing with some acquaintances in a residential area located on West Finn Place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It is worth mentioning that he was quite active on various social media platforms, frequently sharing updates and maintaining regular communication with his family members. This suggests that he had a strong online presence and was actively engaged in staying connected with his loved ones. On the 17th of July, 2020, there was a sighting of Alexander Kruk near West Finn Place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. At that time, he was reportedly seen in that specific area. Kruk's final interaction with his family occurred through a telephone conversation on August 6, 2020. This communication marked their most recent connection before the present moment. Following his unavailability, his family proceeded to file a report of a missing person with the Milwaukee Police Department, concerned about his whereabouts and unable to establish any communication with him. Alexander Kruk was beset by mental health challenges, and his family holds the belief that his psychological well-being was deteriorating during the period when he went missing. Kruk's acquaintances have shared that he allegedly formed a connection with an individual through an online platform prior to his vanishing. It was revealed that they engaged in conversations about potentially embarking on a journey to Texas, followed by a subsequent visit to Mexico in order to meet this woman in person. Despite the urging of his friends to reconsider, there is no concrete evidence validating that Kruk ever arrived at either of these destinations, raising doubts about the fruition of his travel plans. According to Kruk's acquaintances, he mentioned his intention to travel to California via a Greyhound bus, hinting at the prospect of a lucrative opportunity. However, there is a lack of evidence to substantiate the claim that he actually departed from Wisconsin. Kruk, prior to his mysterious disappearance, was devoid of both financial resources and the means for international travel, such as a passport or any form of transportation. It is worth noting that he did not possess a car and predominantly relied on alternative methods of mobility, such as walking, utilizing public transportation, or seeking assistance from fellow individuals for commutation purposes. According to a family member of Kruk, in July 2020, there was a sighting of him in the company of a Hispanic woman, although her identity remains unknown. It was reported that during that time, she was driving either a maroon Nissan Murano or a white Nissan sedan. This information showcases the potential connection between Kruk and the Hispanic woman, raising questions about their relationship and the circumstances surrounding their encounter. According to numerous acquaintances, there are several individuals who assert that they have encountered the mysterious woman as well. They affirm that she would occasionally provide him with meals and offer transportation services. After a thorough investigation, law enforcement officials have determined that there is no indication of any criminal activity involved in the mysterious vanishing of Alexander Kruk. The exact circumstances surrounding Alexander's disappearance continue to elude the authorities, leaving his case classified as a missing person. The strange case of Francis Levy's handprint. The mystery of Francis Levy and the unremovable handprint remains one of the most haunting legends in the history of the Chicago Fire Department. It is a story rooted in tragedy, foresight, and an unexplained physical mark that lingered for decades, quietly unsettling all who encountered it. On the 18th of April, 1924, Francis Levy was carrying out routine cleanup and maintenance duties at his fire station in Chicago. Colleagues quickly noticed that his demeanor was unusually subdued. While washing a window inside the station, Levy spoke openly about a strange and overwhelming feeling that he would not survive the day. His words were not spoken lightly, and those present would later remember the moment with deep unease. As he leaned against the window pane, he paused, as though weighed down by a sense of inevitability. Later that evening, an off-duty street conductor noticed flames rising from Curran's Hall, a 4-story building only a few blocks away. He immediately activated a fire alarm, prompting a rapid response from the fire department. Francis Levy, assigned as a pipeman with Engine 107, was among those who answered the call. The crews arrived shortly after 7 in the evening and began working to contain the rapidly spreading fire. Teams advanced inside the structure, while others operated from ladders outside, attempting to reach the upper floors. In those days, breathing equipment was not available, so firefighters rotated in and out, rushing to windows for air before returning to the smoke-filled interior. As the effort continued, several onlookers noted strange behavior from the flames, which appeared to move downward along the stairs as though fueled by a flowing substance, despite no such material being expected in the building. Approximately 30 minutes into the response, the weakened structure gave way. The ceiling collapsed without warning, trapping firefighters inside, while outer walls fell outward, overwhelming the crews stationed on ladders. In the chaos, 9 firefighters, including Francis Levy, were lost, and 20 others were seriously injured. A civilian named William Bear also perished while attempting to assist those trapped within the wreckage. The scale of the loss deeply affected the city and the department. Funeral services for the fallen firefighters were held between the 21st and 23rd of April. 6 members from Truck 12, 2 from Engine 5, and 1 from Engine 107 were honored. In the aftermath, investigators determined that the fire had been deliberately set by occupants of a sporting goods and novelty business located on the 2nd floor. The use of wood alcohol explained the unnatural behavior of the flames. The revelation added another layer of sorrow, knowing the incident had been preventable and driven by greed rather than accident. The following day, back at the fire station, a worker noticed an unusual stain on the same window Francis Levy had leaned against hours before the fire. Attempts to wash or scrub it away were unsuccessful. Over time, the mark became clearer, forming the unmistakable shape of a human hand. The discovery disturbed many, as it appeared exactly where Levy had rested while speaking of his sense of foreboding. Specialists were called in to buff and scrape the glass, but the handprint remained. Eventually, the suggestion was made to remove the window entirely. The firefighters, however, chose otherwise. With no explanation for its presence, they believed it should remain untouched. For years, the handprint stayed in place, becoming an unspoken memorial to Francis Levy and the others lost that night. The mystery endured until the 18th of April, 1944, exactly 20 years after the fire. On that day, a paper delivery boy accidentally shattered the window while tossing a newspaper, destroying both the glass and the handprint. With its disappearance, The physical mystery ended, but the story never faded. To this day, Francis Levy's handprint is remembered as more than a coincidence. It stands as a symbol of sacrifice, intuition, and the lingering marks left behind by moments that shape lives forever. Mysterious video captured in Brazil. The mysterious footage captured in Uruana de Minas, located in the state of Minas Gerais, Brazil, has stirred fascination and unease since it was recorded on the evening of the 31st of January, 2026, at approximately 7:56 in the evening. Filmed in a rural, forested area, the video shows a vivid, glowing red light pulsing from within the branches of a tree. The illumination appears concentrated, almost alive, radiating outward in a way that feels intentional rather than accidental. According to the individual who recorded the footage, this was not an isolated incident. He explained that the phenomenon appears frequently where he lives, adding that on some nights the manifestations are far stronger and more intense. Locals familiar with regional folklore immediately drew connections to the legend of the boitata. Deeply rooted in Brazilian oral tradition, the boitata is widely described as a guardian entity associated with fire and light. While many envision it as a blazing serpent moving through forests, other accounts portray it as a floating orb, a wandering flame, or a luminous eye watching silently from the darkness. These varying descriptions align strikingly well with what is seen in the footage. The light does not flicker randomly like a distant lantern or vehicle beam. Instead, it glows with a steady, deliberate intensity, as though aware of its surroundings. Folklore holds that the boitata serves as a protector of nature, especially in regions vulnerable to environmental harm. Stories passed down through generations speak of the entity appearing in places where forests must be guarded, frightening away those who would bring destruction. This protective symbolism has led many to interpret sightings not as threats, but as warnings or watchful presences tied to the balance of the land itself. Beyond folklore, some observers have linked the footage to the broader phenomenon of unexplained luminous orbs reported across the world. The shape, brightness, and hovering behavior resemble modern descriptions of glowing aerial anomalies. Yet what makes this recording particularly compelling is its setting, deep within a natural landscape long associated with myth, memory, and mystery. Mysterious security image. The chilling security image captured within the intensive care wing of the hospital has stirred deep unease among staff who have seen it. Recorded during the quiet hours of the night, the photograph shows a small childlike figure standing alone beyond a set of secured glass doors. The area in question is restricted, a place where only authorized medical personnel are permitted. Pediatric patients would never be allowed to wander there, especially unaccompanied. Yet the figure appears calm, almost as though it belongs within the corridor. What makes the image even more unsettling is the history of that very wing. Years earlier, before renovations transformed it into intensive care, the same section of the hospital had housed pediatric surgery. Generations of children had passed through those halls, many undergoing life-altering procedures. Though the department had long since been relocated, staff often remarked that the atmosphere never truly changed. The silence felt heavier there, especially during overnight shifts. After the image surfaced, numerous nurses quietly came forward with their own experiences. Many described glimpsing small figures at the ends of hallways, reflections in darkened monitors, or the faint sound of footsteps when no patients were present. Some shared that they had seen what looked like children standing near doorways, only for the figures to vanish moments later. A few admitted that when they reported these encounters to supervisors, they were met not with disbelief, but with resignation. Management would acknowledge the concerns in hushed tones, explaining that similar reports had been made before and that nothing could be done. To those who work there, the photograph feels less like an anomaly and more like confirmation. The childlike presence captured by the camera appears peaceful rather than threatening, quietly occupying the space as though tied to it. For many staff members, the image serves as a haunting reminder that some places carry memories so strong they never truly fade. Mysterious humanoid encounter. The mysterious video that has recently gone viral has left viewers across the world both fascinated and deeply unsettled. Filmed near a rushing waterfall where water pours over jagged rock into a shallow pool, the footage begins innocently enough. A small group of people stand near the edge of the water, laughing and recording the scenery. The setting appears lush and remote, surrounded by dense greenery and weathered stone, the kind of place that feels untouched and ancient. Yet within moments, the tone of the video shifts dramatically. As the camera focuses on the dark opening of a cave carved into the rock wall, movement can be seen deep within the shadows. At first it appears subtle, almost easy to dismiss. But then, slowly and unmistakably, a humanoid figure begins to crawl outward. Its posture is unnatural, its limbs moving in a way that feels unfamiliar when compared to any known animal. The figure drags itself forward cautiously, as though observing the group just as intensely as they are observing it. The people filming can be heard reacting instantly. Their voices rise in panic, their words overlapping in disbelief. The fear in their reactions feels raw and genuine, suggesting they were witnessing something far beyond their expectations. None of them move closer. Instead, they retreat, still filming, unable to look away from the being emerging from the darkness. Speculation about the footage has spread rapidly. While the exact location has not been confirmed, many believe it may have been recorded somewhere within the jungles of Indonesia, a region long associated with dense wilderness and unexplored terrain. The mysterious humanoid seen in the video has not been identified, and no official explanation has been provided. The photograph, taken during a violent thunderstorm above the deserts of Arizona, has since become one of the most discussed images among cryptozoological researchers and skywatchers alike. Captured in a fleeting moment between flashes of lightning, the image appears to show an enormous winged creature soaring high within the storm clouds. According to the man who took the photograph, the encounter was entirely unexpected. He had been watching the storm roll in when he noticed an immense bird gliding across the sky, far larger than any he had ever witnessed before. He attempted multiple times to photograph the creature, but the storm's intensity, combined with the bird's speed and altitude, made it nearly impossible. This single frame was the only image in which the figure appeared clearly. At the very top of the photograph, silhouetted against the illuminated storm clouds, the shape of the bird is unmistakable. Its wings stretch outward in a commanding span, cutting across the lightning-lit sky with an imposing presence. The scale of the creature becomes even more striking when compared to the surrounding cloud formations. Rather than appearing small or distant, it dominates the upper frame, suggesting a wingspan far beyond that of any known regional bird species. The witness insisted that the sheer size alone set it apart from eagles, condors, or any migratory birds common to the American Southwest. For many observers, the image immediately evoked the legendary thunderbird, a creature deeply rooted in ancient Native American traditions. Though described differently among tribes, the thunderbird is consistently portrayed as a colossal bird associated with storms, thunder, and lightning. Its wings were said to generate thunderclaps, while lightning flashed from its eyes or beak. The parallels between those ancestral accounts and the storm-bound figure in the photograph have reignited discussions about whether such sightings represent folklore manifesting in reality. Cryptozoologists have long theorized that thunderbird sightings across different regions may refer either to a single surviving species or to multiple large avian creatures sharing similar traits. Descriptions often portray the being as towering when grounded, with a wingspan exceeding 16 feet. Such dimensions have led researchers to study whether a creature of that size could sustain flight. Some believe the answer lies in storm dynamics. Massive birds, they argue, could utilize powerful updrafts generated by thundercloud systems, gliding along wind currents much like modern eagles ride mountain thermals, but on a far grander scale. Mysterious Tic Tac UFO image. The photograph, said to have been taken by naval personnel during an operation in the Caribbean Sea, has become one of the most debated images within modern UFO discourse. Captured from the deck of a military vessel, the image shows two crew members in weather gear standing at the railing, gazing outward across rough ocean waters. Hovering just above the surface in the distance is a smooth oval craft, its shape eerily consistent with what has come to be known as the Tic Tac UFO. The object appears solid, metallic, and completely silent, gliding effortlessly above the waves without any visible propulsion or exhaust. What has drawn the most attention, however, is not just the object itself, but the circumstances surrounding the photograph's release. The image first surfaced on Reddit, posted by a user whose account had been created that very same day. The individual claimed to have been stationed aboard the ship during the encounter, stating that the craft had been tracked visually as it skimmed low across the water's surface. According to the account, the object maintained impossible stability despite turbulent sea conditions, moving with controlled precision before accelerating out of sight. Within hours of the post gaining traction, both the image and the user's account vanished without explanation. The deletion was swift and complete, leaving no archived posts, no follow-up comments, and no trace of the original uploader's digital footprint. This sudden disappearance ignited immediate speculation. Many researchers and observers began to theorize that the poster may have been a whistleblower, someone attempting to release restricted material before being silenced or forced to remove the evidence. The alleged date of the encounter, 2020, adds further intrigue. During that period, public interest in unidentified aerial phenomena had already intensified, with increasing reports from military pilots describing encounters with similarly shaped craft. The resemblance between those accounts and the object in the photograph has been cited as reinforcing its authenticity. Observers noted the identical elongated oval structure, smooth exterior, and lack of wings or rotors, features long associated with the tic-tac classification. The cover-up aspect has become inseparable from the image's legacy. Analysts point to the speed of the deletion as unusual, arguing that ordinary hoaxes tend to linger, debated and dissected over time. In this case, the removal was immediate, precise, and total. To many, that level of digital erasure suggested external intervention rather than voluntary withdrawal. The notion that the photograph was suppressed has only amplified its significance, transforming it from a simple sighting into a symbol of concealed knowledge. Mysterious apparition. The unsettling photograph has drawn intense fascination since it was first shared, largely because of the chilling circumstances surrounding its capture. Taken casually while experimenting with Snapchat filters, the image was never intended to document anything unusual. The photographer had simply been passing time, adjusting filters and angles, unaware that the final frame would contain something that did not belong within the apartment at all. What makes the image particularly disturbing is the stark contrast between intention and result. A playful moment transformed into an encounter with something deeply unexplainable. In the foreground, the altered facial filter is immediately noticeable, giving the image an almost humorous beginning. Yet the eye is quickly pulled past that detail and toward the background, where the true mystery resides. Standing near the doorway is a pale, human-like figure, partially illuminated by the dim interior lighting. Its posture is still, its presence silent, and its appearance does not match anyone known to be inside the apartment at the time. According to the resident, the corner where the figure stands should have contained nothing more than a plain white door. No shelves, no reflections, no objects capable of forming such a shape were present. The deeper history of the building adds another layer of unease. Beneath the apartment lies a basement that once served as living quarters for household staff many decades earlier. The resident recalled that each trip downstairs to do laundry brought an unshakable sense of dread, as though the air itself held memory. The chills felt in that space were persistent and heavy, creating the impression that unseen moments from the past still lingered within the walls. When viewed together, the photograph and the building's history form a haunting narrative. The figure appears almost observational, neither threatening nor welcoming, simply present. Its stillness suggests awareness, as though it had always been there, waiting for a moment when the barrier between past and present thinned just enough to be seen. The mystery of Fan Peishuan and Zhang Chuanchuan. The disappearance of 48-year-old Fan Peishuan and his wife, 44-year-old Zhang Chuanchuan, remains one of the most unsettling modern mysteries to emerge from Old Brookville on Long Island, New York. The couple were last seen by their children at approximately 10:30 in the evening on the 30th of March, 2025, inside their family home. What began as an ordinary night would soon transform into a case filled with unanswered questions, financial intrigue, and a silence that has lingered ever since. According to the family's lawyer, John Carman, the evening unfolded peacefully. The couple shared dinner with their 2 sons, along with several friends of the younger son. There were no outward signs of distress, no visible conflict, and nothing to suggest that the night would mark the last confirmed sighting of Fan Peishuan and Zheng Chuanxuan. Plans for the following day appeared routine as well. The sons, accompanied by the older son's girlfriend, departed the next morning for a planned trip to the Catskills, believing their parents would remain safely at home. The property itself added another layer of intrigue to the case. The residence, a luxurious estate in Old Brookville, had been purchased in November of 2023 for $3,887,000 in cash, without a mortgage. Ownership records listed Zheng Chuanxuan and the couple's older son, 21-year-old Fan Yiwei, as the legal owners. This detail sparked early speculation, with some questioning whether Fan Peishuan's name was an alias connected to his son. However, official address records and subsequent reporting confirmed that Fan Peishuan and Fan Yiwei were indeed separate individuals, clarifying the family structure but doing little to solve the larger mystery. Much of the couple's wealth was believed to stem from business interests tied to companies in China, the country where they originally resided before establishing their life in the United States. Their financial success, while impressive, would later become a focal point of the investigation. In September of 2025, a significant development emerged. Chu Wu of Queens and Yinye Roy Wang of Long Island were charged with using fraudulent documentation to siphon more than $2,800,000 from the missing couple's bank accounts. Court proceedings revealed that beginning on the 29th of June, the names of the missing couple were gradually added to Wu's bank account. The account designation was then altered from an individual ownership status to a joint account with rights of survivorship. Over the course of 4 days, a series of withdrawals and transfers drained the funds. When Roy Wang was taken into custody, authorities discovered counterfeit credit cards, bank checks, a New York driver's license, and a New Jersey tax refund document, all bearing different identities. His prior history involving identity-related offenses deepened suspicions surrounding the financial aspect of the case. Despite these findings, no formal allegations connected either suspect to the physical disappearance of Fan Peishuan and Zheng Chuanxuan. In the aftermath, reports indicated that the couple's 2 sons had returned to China, further complicating public understanding of the family's circumstances. The home in Old Brookville, once filled with conversation and routine family life, now stands as a silent reminder of a night when 2 individuals simply vanished. The case continues to stir speculation, not only because of the unexplained absence of the couple, but also due to the calculated financial activity that followed. Together, these elements have transformed the disappearance of Fan Peishuan and Zheng Chuanxuan into a haunting modern mystery, one defined by unanswered questions, international ties, and a timeline that seems to grow more mysterious with each passing year. The strange case of John Lima. The disappearance of 26-year-old John Lima of Middleton, Massachusetts, remains one of the most haunting unsolved cases in the region's recent history. In 2005, John was living in a basement apartment within his parents' home, a space that allowed him independence while still keeping him close to family support. At the time, John was facing personal struggles related to substance dependency, a challenge that weighed heavily on both him and those who loved him. His family, especially his mother, Maria Lima, stood firmly beside him, determined to help him move forward and rebuild stability in his life. John was last seen alive in the early morning hours of the 29th of October 2005, leaving his girlfriend's residence in Chelsea, Massachusetts at approximately 1:30. The sighting would become the final confirmed moment anyone outside his family encountered him. The previous afternoon, on the 28th of October, Maria had seen her son before departing for work. There was no indication that anything was wrong. John had mentioned plans to attend a Halloween celebration in Salem that evening, which explained why he might be out late. Roughly 2 hours after he left his girlfriend's home, at around 2 a.m, Maria was awakened by the distinct sound of a car door slamming. Looking out her window, she saw John's vehicle parked in the driveway. Relieved that her son had made it home safely, she returned to bed, believing he had gone inside. However, she never actually saw him enter the house. When morning arrived at 7 o'clock, John's parents realized something was wrong. He was nowhere to be found. Inside his basement apartment, his bed was neatly made, and many of his personal belongings remained behind. His car keys, wallet, and cigarettes were all still in his room, items he would not normally leave if he planned to go out again. Outside, his car sat parked at an unusual angle in the driveway, as if it had been left hastily. One of the most unsettling discoveries was the condition of his bedroom window. The screen had been pushed outward from the inside, suggesting a possible exit point. The area behind the home, directly beneath that window, would later become a point of concern. According to one account, the family did not immediately report John missing, believing he might have been spending the Halloween weekend with friends. During that time, the backyard was raked, an action that may have unintentionally disturbed or erased potential evidence before investigators could examine the scene. As days turned into weeks and weeks into years, answers never came. Law enforcement pursued leads, but none produced a definitive explanation for what happened that night. John's family has long believed that outside involvement may have played a role in his disappearance, though no conclusive proof has surfaced. Despite the passage of time, hope has never fully faded. The Lima family has offered a reward of $30,000 for information that could lead to John being found. His story continues to be shared, remembered not only for its mystery, but for the portrait it paints of a young man surrounded by people who cared deeply for him. The mystery of Deborah Arvanites. The disappearance of Deborah Debbie Arvanites remains one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries tied to the quiet communities of Ohio and Pennsylvania. Born on the 18th of April 1962 to her parents Iris and James, Debbie was known as a warm, spirited woman whose life revolved around her family, especially her two young sons. At the time she went missing, she was 29 years old and living in Ashtabula, Ohio. Though she was divorced from her former husband Mark, the two remained on amicable terms, united in their care and devotion to their children. On the 19th of May 1991, Debbie made a spontaneous yet exciting decision. She planned to travel roughly 40 miles by hitchhiking to Connaught Lake Park in Crawford County, Pennsylvania. A major concert event was being held there, featuring well-known bands including Foghat, Rare Earth, and Molly Hatchet. The lively atmosphere of music, motorcycles, and festival energy drew large crowds, and Debbie also held a ticket to attend a nearby Harley-Davidson motorcycle rally taking place alongside the concert. For her, it was meant to be a night of enjoyment, music, and freedom away from routine responsibilities. Witnesses later confirmed that Debbie did arrive at the concert. At least one individual who personally knew her recalled seeing her in the crowd. She was described as wearing a jean skirt, a gold-colored shirt, a black jacket, and white sneakers. The sighting placed her alive and well within the festival grounds, blending into the sea of concert-goers gathered for the event. Unfortunately, that confirmed sighting would become the final moment anyone could place her whereabouts with certainty. Debbie's physical description has remained a key part of her case file over the years. She was a white woman with medium-length dirty or sandy blonde hair and blue eyes. She stood between 5 feet and 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighed approximately 120 to 140 pounds. Distinguishing features included a small mole between her mouth and nose and another below her chest. She also had 2 tattoos, a lightning bolt with clouds on her ankle and a rose on her shoulder blade. Those close to her also remembered that she had once broken a toe that never healed properly, giving her a slightly recognizable walk. In her younger years, she had 2 noticeable gaps between her teeth, though later photographs showed dental work had repaired them. Despite multiple searches conducted in and around the concert grounds and surrounding areas, no trace of Debbie was ever located. Investigators followed tips, interviewed witnesses, and retraced possible travel routes, yet every effort ended without resolution. Authorities within the Ashtabula Police Department have long believed that outside involvement played a role in her disappearance, though no definitive answers have surfaced. As the years passed, the emotional toll on her family deepened. Debbie's parents, Iris and James, spent the remainder of their lives hoping for clarity about their daughter's fate. Both passed in the early years of the 2000s, without receiving the closure they sought. Her two sons, who were very young when she vanished, grew up carrying the quiet weight of unanswered questions about their mother. The mystery of Vaughn Hofmeyr Holgaard. The mysterious disappearance of Vaughn Hofmeyr Holgaard stands as one of the most perplexing vanishings involving a former international diplomat. At the time he disappeared, Holgaard was 74 years old and had been retired from an illustrious career in the Danish Foreign Service for approximately 7 years. His life had been defined by diplomacy, structure, and global responsibility, making the circumstances surrounding his sudden absence all the more bewildering. Holgaard's professional journey began in 1939 when he joined Denmark's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Over the decades that followed, he built a reputation as a composed, disciplined, and highly capable representative of his nation. His assignments carried him across the world. He served in London and Washington, D.C., gaining experience in some of the most politically significant capitals of the era. By 1958, his expertise and reliability led to his appointment as permanent head of office for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a role that placed him at the administrative heart of Denmark's diplomatic operations. His career continued to expand in both prestige and responsibility. He held ambassadorial posts to Bolivia and Peru and later became Denmark's permanent representative to the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. He also served as head of Denmark's permanent delegation to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. His final diplomatic chapter saw him appointed ambassador to Mexico, Cuba, Guatemala, San Salvador, and Honduras. For his decades of service, Holgaard was inducted into the Order of the Dannebrog, one of Denmark's most distinguished chivalric honors, recognizing not only his diplomatic achievements, but also his dedication to public service. Upon retiring in 1981, Holgaard sought a quieter existence. He and his wife relocated to the coastal town of Marbella in Spain's Andalusia region. There, far from the pressures of international diplomacy, he settled into a peaceful retirement. Friends and family described him as balanced, thoughtful, and emotionally steady. He was not known to suffer from any mental distress. His wife spoke of him as the most faithful and loving man in the world, emphasizing the stability of both his character and their marriage. Despite his distinguished background, Holgaard lived modestly. Family representatives stressed that he was neither politically prominent in retirement nor exceptionally wealthy, and there had never been any record of threats directed toward him. His financial accounts showed no unusual withdrawals prior to his disappearance. His routines were simple, predictable, and deeply ingrained. One of his most cherished habits was his evening walk. Even in his 70s, Holgaard maintained the practice of driving to nearby mountain trails, where he would walk roughly 1.5 miles to watch the sunset. Though he suffered from poor eyesight and required thick glasses, he remained determined to continue these walks. Ironically, he also held a persistent fear of being caught outdoors after dark due to his limited vision, which made his disappearance during such a routine all the more unsettling. On the evening of Wednesday, the 3rd of February, 1988, at approximately 5:30 in the evening, Holgaard left his home in his Renault 18 to begin his customary walk. When he had not returned by 9 o'clock that night, his family grew concerned and reported him missing. Authorities responded swiftly. Within 90 minutes of the report, the civil guard located his vehicle parked perfectly on a street near his home. There were no visible signs of disturbance. The placement of the car suggested calm, deliberate parking rather than urgency or distress. What followed was an extensive search effort. More than 100 officers participated alongside trained search dogs, helicopters, and motorcycle units. Clinics, hospitals, roads, fields, and surrounding terrain across the Costa del Sol were thoroughly examined. Despite the scale of the operation, no trace of Holgaard was discovered. Investigators quickly ruled out a ransom-driven disappearance due to the absence of any demands. Theories varied. Some believed he may have become disoriented during his walk. Others considered the possibility of a roadside incident. A smaller number suggested voluntary withdrawal from society, though his family firmly rejected this notion, insisting it contradicted his personality and life circumstances. The most significant development emerged the following Sunday. In the town of Caratraca, approximately 80 kilometers north of Marbella, Multiple eyewitnesses reported encountering a man they later identified as Holgard after seeing his photograph in the press. Among them was the director of a local spa. According to accounts, the man entered the facility, asked about obtaining food, sat briefly in the dining area, then wandered through the town before departing. Witnesses described him as tired, distant, and disoriented. Investigators and Holgard's children traveled to Karatraka to pursue the lead, yet no definitive trace could be secured. One puzzling detail deepened the mystery: the clothing. Witnesses claimed he wore a beige suit, blue raincoat, and cap, an outfit entirely different from what he had worn when leaving home. A further reported sighting came from a Danish woman who believed she saw him in La Herradura, a coastal town roughly 130 kilometers east of Marbella. This account, though intriguing, yielded no conclusive evidence. Mysterious creature captured at Cranes Hollow Road. This mysterious image, reportedly captured along Cranes Hollow Road near Amsterdam, has become a subject of intense discussion among those who study unexplained creatures. Taken not far from the edge of the Green Mountain National Forest, the photograph shows a lone figure standing in a snow-covered clearing, partially obscured by trees. The environment itself adds to the unease, as the dense forest has long been associated with isolation, wildlife movement, and unexplained encounters. The subject in the image appears unlike any known animal native to the region. Its hind legs are unusually shaped, bent in a way that suggests immense strength and an unfamiliar joint structure. The back slopes downward in a hunched posture, giving the impression of a creature built for both speed and power. Perhaps most striking is the apparent absence of a tail, a detail that immediately separates it from wolves, coyotes, or large dogs commonly found in upstate New York. The way it stands on all fours, yet seems almost capable of rising upright, has led many observers to pause over the image for extended periods. Those who believe in the existence of the dogman point to these exact features as consistent with decades of eyewitness accounts. Reports often describe a large canine-like being with abnormal proportions, powerful rear limbs, and a posture that appears unnatural when compared to known animals. The figure in the photograph seems to match these descriptions closely, particularly in the way its hind legs carry more mass and height than expected. The location of the sighting further supports these beliefs. Forested corridors between New York and Vermont are sparsely populated and rich in wildlife, making them ideal for a secretive creature to move undetected. Snow on the ground would normally make tracks easy to spot, yet no widely documented animal evidence was reported alongside the image, adding another layer of mystery. For many, this photograph is not a trick of light or a misidentified animal, but a rare and chilling glimpse of something real. It stands as one of the quieter yet more convincing pieces of visual evidence, suggesting that the dogman legend may be rooted in something far closer to reality than folklore alone. Mysterious photograph of the White Lady. In 2022, a quiet walk through the dramatic landscape of Greymare's Tail in Scotland led to a discovery that many believe captured a moment of true paranormal significance. The photograph was taken casually while documenting the scenery, with no intention of recording anything unusual. It was only later, after returning home and reviewing the images more closely, that an unexpected figure appeared standing near the water's edge. The image shows a pale, human-like shape positioned among dark rocks beside the loch. The figure appears upright, draped in what looks like a long white garment that contrasts sharply with the surrounding terrain. At first glance, it blends into the natural tones of stone and water, but once noticed, it becomes difficult to ignore. There were no people present in that area at the time the photograph was taken, and the location itself is remote, quiet, and rarely visited by anyone dressed in light clothing. When the image was shared with online groups dedicated to investigating unexplained phenomena, many immediately identified the figure as the White Lady. This apparition is one of the most enduring figures in European folklore, particularly in Scotland. The White Lady is traditionally described as the spirit of a woman who endured profound sorrow during her lifetime, often connected to lost love or the separation from her children. She is almost always seen wearing white, commonly described as a nightgown or a wedding dress, and is often linked to locations tied to nature, water, or historic pathways. In Scottish tradition, Sightings of the White Lady are sometimes believed to serve as a warning or a sign that emotional or life-altering events may soon follow. Rather than appearing threatening, she is often described as solemn, silent, and reflective, standing still as though bound to the land itself. The figure in the grey mare's tail photograph fits this description closely, appearing calm and motionless, as if observing the water or the surrounding hills. What makes this encounter especially compelling is the context. The photographer had no awareness of capturing anything unusual at the time. There was no movement, no sound, and no visual cue that something out of the ordinary was present. The figure revealed itself only after the fact, which aligns with many accounts of similar apparitions being noticed only in photographs rather than during the moment itself. Grey Mare's Tail is an area steeped in natural beauty and quiet isolation, qualities often associated with lingering presences in folklore. For many who have examined the image, it represents a rare and genuine capture of the White Lady, standing silently within a landscape that has witnessed centuries of human history, emotion, and loss. Chris Brackley's mysterious photograph. This mysterious photograph, taken in the early 1980s inside St. Botolph's Church, remains one of the most compelling and widely discussed images in the history of paranormal photography. Captured in the year 1982 by photographer Chris Brackley, the image was not intended to document anything unusual. At the time, Brackley was simply photographing the interior of the historic church, focusing on its architecture and atmosphere. When the photograph was later developed, Brackley was stunned by what appeared in the upper right-hand portion of the image. Standing high in the church loft was a transparent figure dressed in what looked like old-fashioned clothing. The form appeared distinctly human, resembling a woman calmly observing the space below. The figure's presence was subtle yet unmistakable, partially see-through and softly outlined, blending with the wooden structure of the balcony while remaining clearly defined. What makes the photograph particularly striking is the extensive analysis that followed. The negative was examined by experts who ruled out the possibility of double exposure, light leaks, or processing errors. Brackley's camera equipment was also thoroughly checked and found to be functioning correctly. No faults, reflections, or technical explanations could account for the figure's appearance. According to all professional assessments, nothing physical had been present in the loft at the time the photograph was taken. For years, the image stood alone as an unexplained anomaly, a silent figure frozen in time within one of England's oldest churches. Then, several years later, Brackley received an unexpected message that added a profound new layer to the mystery. A builder who had been working on restoration efforts within the church's crypt reached out to him with a remarkable account. During renovation work, the builder had dismantled a wall and accidentally uncovered a collection of old coffins that had been concealed for generations. One of the coffins had partially opened, revealing a remarkably well-preserved figure inside. The builder was struck immediately by the face, which he said bore an uncanny resemblance to the woman visible in Brackley's photograph. The similarities were strong enough to leave him unsettled, prompting him to contact the photographer directly. For many, this connection transformed the photograph from a curious visual anomaly into something far more meaningful. The idea that a presence tied to the church's hidden past may have appeared briefly during a quiet moment of photography has captivated believers and researchers alike. The image continues to be regarded as one of the clearest examples of a genuine spiritual presence captured unintentionally. A reminder that historic places may still hold echoes of those who once walked their halls. Mysterious photograph. The photograph attributed to Sharon Capalella Townsley has become one of the more unsettling images shared among those who study unexplained phenomena. Taken during what should have been an ordinary evening, the image was captured while her grandson's stepsister was playing in the yard with other children. At the time the photograph was taken, there were no other adults present, and nothing unusual was noticed by anyone watching the children. The moment appeared entirely normal, filled with the casual movement and laughter of a quiet night outdoors. It was only later, while reviewing the photograph, that something deeply disturbing became apparent. Standing beside the young girl was an unfamiliar woman, her form pale and indistinct, yet clearly humanoid. Most unsettling of all was the way the figure appeared to be holding the child's hand, walking alongside her, as if guiding her across the yard. No one present that night recalled seeing this woman, and no explanation could be offered for how she appeared in the image. Those who have studied the photograph describe an immediate feeling of unease. The figure does not appear solid in the way a living person would, nor does she resemble a trick of light or motion blur. Her outline is faint, almost translucent, yet her posture and movement suggest intent and awareness. The contrast between the ordinary setting and the unnatural presence creates a powerful sense of intrusion, as though something unseen had briefly crossed into the physical world. Since being shared online, the image has circulated widely through paranormal research groups on social media. Thousands have examined it closely, many agreeing that the photograph shows more than a simple photographic anomaly. To them, the figure resembles what is often described as a guardian spirit or wandering apparition drawn inexplicably to the presence of a child. The enduring mystery of the image lies not only in what it shows, but in what it implies. A woman's mysterious encounter. In 2022, an Irish woman experienced an unsettling and deeply confusing encounter while walking in woodland near her home in County Meath. The walk began as an ordinary attempt to increase her daily step count using a Fitbit, something she had done many times before. What followed, however, left her shaken and searching for explanations rooted not only in logic, but also in ancient folklore. Before entering the woods, she recalled touching two separate trees that stood near the edge of the path. One felt strangely warm beneath her hand, while the other was damp and cold, despite the mild conditions. She thought little of it at the time and continued onward. Soon after, the path forked. She chose the left direction and quickly found herself surrounded by waist-high weeds and thick plants. Although she could hear other people nearby, she knew instinctively that she had wandered off the main trail. She retraced her steps back to the fork and chose the right path instead. This route also ended abruptly, forcing her to turn around once more. When she attempted to return to the main trail, nothing looked familiar. The woods felt subtly different, as though the layout itself had shifted. The sky began to darken as clouds rolled in, and her growing unease turned into a strong desire to leave the area immediately. She reached for her phone to use Google Maps, but there was no signal. With no clear direction, she continued walking and again ended up in dense, overgrown terrain. It was at that moment she heard a high-pitched woman's voice calling out, urging her to come closer. At first, the voice did not alarm her, but when it broke into laughter, something felt deeply wrong. The sound did not belong in the woods, and fear took hold. Acting on instinct rather than reason, she removed her t-shirt, turned it inside out, and put it back on. Almost immediately after turning around, she found herself back on a familiar path. Within moments, she reached her car without further difficulty. Later, she checked her Fitbit and discovered it had recorded 10,000 steps in addition to the 8,000 she had already completed earlier that day. The total made no sense given the amount of time that had passed. When she shared her experience, some suggested that touching the two trees may have allowed her to cross into a strange boundary between worlds. Others believed she had stepped onto a stray sod, a concept in Irish folklore said to be a fragment of the otherworld that appears unexpectedly. Whatever the explanation, the encounter left a lasting impression. It served as a reminder that the Irish landscape, rich with ancient stories and unseen boundaries, may still hold mysteries that reveal themselves when least expected. The mysterious vanishing of Catherine Hammontrey. The mysterious vanishing of Catherine Hammontrey remains one of the most haunting and unresolved disappearances to occur in the rugged wilderness of northern Baja California. On the 11th of April, 2019, Catherine Hammontrey, known to friends and family as Cat, set out with 6 other hikers on what was meant to be a scenic and memorable journey through Cañón del Diablo, often referred to as Devil's Canyon. The canyon lies within the Sierra de San Pedro Martir National Park, not far from the coastal town of San Felipe, an area known for its stark beauty, punishing heat, and unforgiving terrain. Cat was 68 years old at the time and was accompanied by her small, devoted dog, Tootsie. Despite her age, Cat was widely regarded as resilient, adventurous, and deeply familiar with the region. She had lived in Mexico for nearly 2 decades, though she was originally from Seattle, Washington. Her daughter, Desiree Blair, described her as tough, capable, and experienced in outdoor travel. Even after undergoing chemotherapy for liver cancer in 2018, which had left her physically frail, Kat continued to hike and explore, determined not to let illness define her remaining years. The day of the hike carried personal significance beyond the landscape. It marked the one-year wedding anniversary of Kat and her husband, Warren Sundquist. Their relationship, however, had recently been strained. A few days before the hike, Kat and Warren had argued and briefly separated. Kat had moved her belongings back to her townhouse, deeply upset by the conflict. The reasons behind the argument were unclear and troubling to her daughter, who questioned why Kat had spent the night at a neighbor's house without informing Warren and why that incident escalated into a demand for her to leave. Despite this, Kat and Warren spoke over the following days and decided to reconcile, agreeing to resume their relationship shortly before the hike. When the group arrived at Devil's Canyon, one of the two vehicles they had brought was not operating properly. As a result, Warren and another hiker's spouse, Dave, decided to remain behind with the vehicles at the trailhead. This decision immediately stood out to those who later examined the case. Given that it was their anniversary and that Kat was hiking alone with an injured foot, it seemed unusual that Warren insisted on staying behind rather than accompanying her. Tension between the couple was reportedly noticeable, though no one could have predicted what would follow. Kat and her dog joined the rest of the group as they began walking toward the canyon pools and the waterfall above. The terrain was steep and uneven, and the heat was already pressing. About 10 minutes into the hike, near one of the canyon's striking pools of water, Kat informed the others that she needed to stop and rest. She had broken multiple toes in the days prior, injuries she had described in a blog post dated the 5th of April, 2019. She explained that she would remain by the pool, allow Tootsie to cool off in the water, and wait while the others continued on their roughly 90-minute round trip to the waterfall. The group did not object. Leaving someone behind in a desert environment may seem unwise in hindsight, but at the time it did not raise alarm. Kat was familiar with the area, appeared stable, and had chosen a spot near water. She interacted briefly with another hiker, Nicole, before the group moved on. That was the last confirmed sighting of Catherine Hamantra. Devil's Canyon is not a well-traveled tourist destination. There is no cellular service, access by vehicle is difficult, and the canyon's winding paths and ravines can quickly disorient even experienced hikers. The region sits near Picacho del Diablo, the highest peak in Baja California, towering at over 10,000 feet. While breathtaking, the area carries inherent risks, including extreme heat, unpredictable weather, and isolation. Compounding this, Baja California has long been flagged for safety concerns, with advisories urging travelers to exercise caution. When the group returned approximately 90 minutes later, Kat and Tootsie were gone. There were no footprints, no disturbed earth, no indication of direction. The hikers initially assumed Kat had grown tired of waiting and returned to the trailhead to meet Warren. When Warren reported that he had not seen her and that she was not at the parking area, panic set in. Given Kat's foot injuries, prior illness, and the nearly 90-degree heat, it seemed impossible that she could have traveled far. Yet there was no sign of her or her dog. The canyon felt unnervingly silent, as though it had absorbed her presence entirely. The sense of absence was profound, leaving behind only questions that grew more troubling by the hour. Search efforts began the following day, on the 12th of April. Local search and rescue teams were joined by Mexicali civil protection officers, the Mexican Army, firefighters, the Red Cross, volunteers, and trained dogs. Helicopters scanned the canyon from above. 5 search dogs were deployed, but high winds made it impossible for them to pick up a scent. The terrain was searched meticulously within a 5-kilometer radius of Kat's last known location, yet nothing surfaced. No clothing, no personal items, no trace of Tootsie. During the search, law enforcement discovered and destroyed 2 marijuana plants roughly 34 kilometers northwest of San Felipe. While this raised questions, authorities never confirmed any connection to Kat's disappearance. Individuals working in the area were questioned, including a group of Haitian men who were described as hostile and unwilling to cooperate. Despite this, no evidence was uncovered, and the police found nothing linking them to the case. Warren remained at the trailhead on the night Kat vanished, while the rest of the group went into town to alert authorities. This detail later troubled Kat's daughter, who questioned why Warren had not immediately joined the search. She wondered whether fatigue, age, or alcohol consumption had played a role in his inaction. When Desiree arrived in San Felipe days later, the official search had already been called off. On the 15th of April, State Civil Protection Chief Antonio Rosquillas announced that the search was being suspended due to a lack of leads. The case was transferred to the Baja California State Attorney General's office. From that moment on, momentum stalled. Detectives rotated through assignments, communication dwindled, and updates were scarce. Family members were not contacted proactively and were left to pursue information on their own. What disturbed Desiree deeply was Warren's behavior shortly after the search ended. He showed her a photograph of a small stick cross he had built to place near the trail as a memorial. To her, it felt premature, as though he had already accepted that Kat would never return. Despite this, Warren did continue to search independently with friends and volunteers, revisiting the canyon, nearby ranches, and the surrounding desert. He informed local ranchers that his wife and dog were missing, but no one reported seeing them. A drone was also deployed by one of the hikers, Kevin, though its limited battery life and dense vegetation made visibility difficult. That season had seen more rainfall than usual, causing undergrowth to flourish. If Kat had taken shelter beneath a bush or rocky outcrop, she would have been nearly impossible to spot from above. Her clothing offered little contrast against the desert landscape. She wore K-Swiss tennis shoes, khaki shorts, and a light-colored tank top. Her hair, dyed a vivid ruby red in support of breast cancer charities, would normally stand out, yet even that provided no clue. As weeks passed, Desiree returned home to care for her children, maintaining contact with Warren. He periodically checked with the State Attorney General's office, but eventually stopped when no progress was made. The case faded into bureaucratic limbo. Posters placed around San Felipe yielded nothing. Adding to the anguish, Desiree received disturbing messages from someone claiming to be holding her mother and demanding money. The initial surge of hope that Kat might still be alive was quickly replaced by horror when it became clear the messages were fraudulent. The sender turned out to be a known con artist, someone Desiree believed had scammed another family years earlier. Warren claimed he confronted the individual, but no arrest or formal questioning followed. When Desiree contacted authorities in the United States, she was told to file a missing person report, despite jurisdictional limitations. The lack of action left her feeling abandoned and powerless. Since that day in April, Kat Hammontree and her dog Tootsie have never been seen again. No physical evidence has surfaced. The canyon has yielded nothing. The desert, vast and indifferent, keeps its silence. Whether Kat stepped off the trail, encountered someone unknown, or wandered into terrain that concealed her completely remains unanswered. What is certain is that a woman with limited mobility and a loyal dog vanished in broad daylight, near water, without leaving a trace. The mystery of Catherine Hammontree lingers, suspended between unanswered questions and the harsh reality of a search that ended too soon. Devil's Canyon stands unchanged, its pools still shimmering beneath the relentless sun, holding within its depths a truth that has yet to emerge. The mysterious disappearance of Fern Baird. The disappearance of Fern Lovett Baird stands as one of the most troubling and unresolved wilderness mysteries in the American West. On the 19th of October, 2020, Fern Baird, a 62-year-old woman from Park City, Utah, signed the trail register at the Prairie Creek Trailhead, northwest of Ketchum, Idaho. The time recorded was 1:17 in the afternoon. That entry would become the last confirmed trace of her movements. From that moment forward, Fern Baird vanished without leaving behind a single verified clue. Fern arrived in Idaho alone and was staying at a local hotel. Earlier that day, she had spoken with the hotel concierge, asking for recommendations on scenic hiking locations. Security cameras later confirmed her departure, capturing her wearing a grey jacket and black pants, with a black fanny pack secured at her waist. She appeared calm and purposeful, showing no outward signs of distress. Her vehicle, a 2018 Subaru Crosstrek, was later found parked at the Prairie Creek Trailhead, indicating she had begun her hike as planned. Fern was an experienced recreational hiker. She was not known to take unnecessary risks, attempt technical climbs, or leave marked trails. Friends and family described her as cautious and methodical, someone who enjoyed nature but respected its limits. She did not bushwhack, take shortcuts, or push beyond her comfort zone. This made her disappearance even more baffling, as the Prairie Creek area is considered accessible and manageable for someone with her experience. Professionally, Fern was well established and deeply rooted in her community. She was the owner and principal broker of Powder Beach Realty, specializing in residential sales and vacation rentals in Utah's mountain resort areas and the Salt Lake Valley. She was also the founder of Yopa Bag, a company she created to design yoga bags for carrying equipment to class. Her career reflected creativity, discipline, and strong organizational skills. Fern had one son, Breck, who lived in California, and she maintained close friendships with people who frequently joined her on hikes and outdoor outings. The Prairie Creek Trailhead provides access to several popular routes, including Prairie Lakes and Minor Lakes. The Prairie Lakes Trail is approximately 5 miles one way, winding gently through meadows and mixed conifer forests alongside Prairie Creek. The climb is steady but not considered difficult, leading hikers into a grassy basin surrounded by high ridgelines. The trail lies within the Sawtooth National Forest, a vast and rugged expanse covering more than 2 million acres across Idaho and parts of Utah. The forest includes remote wilderness areas with limited cell service, rapidly changing weather, and challenging terrain. On the same day Fern signed in, a family of 5 from Tulsa, Oklahoma, also entered the logbook around a similar time. Their entry was barely legible, but investigators believed the name to be Adkins. Authorities later located the family, but they reported that they did not see Fern and could provide no useful information. Another couple from Boise also signed the register that day and was interviewed, but they too had not encountered her on the trail. Concern arose on the 22nd of October, 2020, when Fern failed to return to her hotel to check out. The hotel staff contacted the Blaine County Sheriff's Office after realizing she had not come back from her hike. Search and rescue operations began that same afternoon. Deputies and volunteers moved quickly, recognizing that time is critical in high-elevation wilderness environments, especially as early winter conditions were already setting in. The search effort was extensive and multifaceted. Blaine County Sheriff's search and rescue teams worked alongside Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue. National Guard helicopters conducted aerial sweeps, while drones scanned difficult terrain from above. 3 K-9 units were deployed, and searchers combed the area on foot, horseback, and motorcycles. The focus centered on Prairie Lakes, Minor Lakes, Norton Lakes, and Mill Lake, spanning elevations from approximately 7,100 feet to 9,200 feet. Nighttime temperatures dropped below freezing, and snowfall began to cover the ground, complicating the search. Fresh snow erased potential tracks and reduced visibility, while strong winds made scent tracking difficult for the K-9 teams. Despite these obstacles, searchers persisted for more than 10 days, covering miles of rugged backcountry. On the 30th of October, 2020, one final large-scale effort was undertaken. 7 K-9 teams were airlifted into the high-elevation search zones, supported by ground teams. After this final operation yielded no results, authorities made the difficult decision to officially suspend the search. Blaine County Sheriff Steve Harkins stated that all available resources had been exhausted, though any new leads would continue to be investigated. What made Fern's disappearance particularly unsettling was the complete absence of evidence. No clothing, no personal belongings, and no trace of her black fanny pack were ever located. There was no activity on her bank accounts, credit cards, or mobile phone after the day she signed the trail register. It was as if she had simply stepped out of existence. Authorities acknowledge that people have become disoriented in the Idaho mountains before. The landscape is vast, with countless drainages, ridges, and wooded areas that can quickly confuse even seasoned hikers. Chief Deputy Will Fruehling stated that while many possibilities existed, the most likely scenario was that Fern may have left the trail unintentionally, become disoriented, and encountered circumstances she could not recover from. At the same time, officials emphasized that there was no evidence pointing definitively to any single explanation. The following summer, on the 25th of June, 2021, the Blaine County Sheriff's Search and Rescue Team returned to the Prairie Lakes Trail during a training exercise. They deliberately chose the waterfalls area roughly 2 miles up the trail to search again for any overlooked evidence related to Fern's disappearance. During this operation, a mobile phone was discovered. Investigators later determined it belonged to a local man who reported losing it while hunting the previous fall. It could not be confirmed whether he had been in the area during the week Fern vanished. As time passed, Fern's case grew colder, though never forgotten. Her disappearance left her family, friends, and the broader outdoor community struggling to understand how a careful, experienced hiker could vanish so completely from a well-traveled trail system. The Sawtooth Wilderness remains as vast and unforgiving as ever, its silence offering no answers. Fern Lovett Baird entered the Prairie Creek trailhead on an autumn afternoon, surrounded by golden trees and mountain air. She never emerged. Her story endures as a sobering reminder of how quickly the wilderness can transform from a place of peace into a realm of unanswered questions, holding its secrets deep within the high country of Idaho. The strange disappearance of Henry Every. During his era, Henry Every stood as the most renowned pirate the world had ever known. His name carried such weight that, had modern classifications existed in the 1690s, he would have unquestionably been labelled Public Enemy Number 1. His reputation spread rapidly across continents, carried by sailors, merchants, and government officials alike, all of whom recognized that Every represented something unprecedented in scale and consequence. Every's fame grew dramatically following the capture of the Gangi Sawai, an event that elevated him from a successful pirate to a near-mythical figure. Within a single generation, his exploits were already being dramatized on the stage in a popular theatrical production titled The Successful Pirate. At the same time, songs celebrating his daring circulated through busy taverns and alehouses, where patrons sang of his fortune and freedom, sometimes propelling these ballads to brief bursts of popularity. His story became entertainment, legend, and warning all at once. By the year 1724, an almost accurate account of Every's exploits appeared as the opening chapter in a general history of the robberies and murders of the most notorious pirates, written under the name Captain Charles Johnson. This publication cemented Every's status as the benchmark against which all other pirates were measured. His notoriety was no longer limited to rumour, but recorded in print for future generations. The concern surrounding Henry Every extended far beyond popular culture. Both the British government and the East India Company viewed his continued freedom as a severe threat. The seizure of the Gangi Sawai, along with reports of the harsh treatment that followed, jeopardized the already delicate relationship between the East India Company and Aurangzeb, the powerful ruler of India. Without Aurangzeb's cooperation, the company risked losing its foothold in the subcontinent, a blow that could have weakened the British Empire at a critical early stage. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, authorities in Whitehall offered an unprecedented reward of £500 for Every's capture. This sum was extraordinary for the time and underscored the urgency of the hunt. The manhunt that followed became the largest coordinated pursuit of the 17th century, stretching across oceans and empires. Law enforcement in Britain remained on constant alert, while colonial officials in North America and the Caribbean joined the effort. Reports were sought from Madagascar, India, and the Red Sea, with even Mughal authorities and company agents actively participating. Despite this immense effort, the results were remarkably limited. Only a small number of Every's crew were eventually detained, and most were later released. Henry Every himself vanished entirely. He disappeared with his portion of the treasure, leaving behind no confirmed sightings, no reliable records, and no clear explanation for his fate. During the golden age of piracy, spanning roughly from 1690 to 1730, many pirates met grim ends or faded quietly into obscurity. Some accepted pardons, while others attempted retirement far from the reach of former enemies. Yet none achieved the level of success or mystery that Henry Every did. He avoided capture, retained his fortune, and slipped beyond the grasp of history itself. The disappearance of Henry Every remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the pirate era. His fate and the location of his wealth have never been uncovered. The mystery of the Bunny Man. The legend of the Bunny Man stands apart from many other mysterious figures because those who encounter him often claim direct interaction rather than distant sightings. Instead of fleeting shadows or silent figures, witnesses describe conversations, warnings, and confrontations that leave a lasting impression. These reports have helped shape one of Virginia's most enduring and unsettling folklore traditions. One of the earliest and most widely accepted encounters was reported by Air Force Cadet Bob Bennett while he was sitting in his parked car with his fiancée in Burke, Virginia. According to Bennett, a figure dressed in white suddenly emerged from the darkness and approached the vehicle. The man reportedly warned them that they were trespassing and should leave the area immediately. Moments later, the figure shattered the car's window with a hatchet and disappeared into the night. When Bennett reported the incident to authorities, the hatchet was found inside the car, lending weight to his account. He also informed his Air Force superiors, a move that many believe adds credibility, as it would have exposed him to embarrassment and professional scrutiny had the story been fabricated. News of the encounter spread quickly, and soon additional witnesses began coming forward. Some reported seeing a man in a white bunny suit standing along rural roads or near wooded areas. Others claimed the figure shouted warnings or made threatening gestures before vanishing. As these stories accumulated, the legend began to evolve. The bunny man was no longer just a strange individual in costume, but became something far more ambiguous. Some believed he was a restless spirit, while others suggested he was an escaped patient from a nearby institution. Over time, the details shifted, but the core of the story remained consistent. A figure dressed as a rabbit appearing unexpectedly and confronting those who crossed his path. The location most closely associated with the bunny man is the Colchester Overpass in Virginia, a bridge where train tracks pass beneath a roadway. This spot has become a focal point for sightings and late-night visits by curious individuals hoping to catch a glimpse of the figure themselves. Authorities are well aware of people gathering there, and loitering is discouraged due to safety concerns. Despite this, reports of encounters continue, often involving strange sounds, sightings of a white figure, or an overwhelming sense of being watched. What makes the Bunny Man legend especially compelling is its persistence. Decades after the first reported encounters, people still claim experiences that mirror those early accounts. Witnesses describe the same unsettling presence, the same warnings, and the same feeling that they are not welcome. Unlike many legends that fade with time, the Bunny Man remains active in the stories of those who live nearby. Today, the Bunny Man is firmly woven into the folklore of Virginia. Mysterious footprints found in the snow. In the quiet woodlands of central Maine, a single set of footprints discovered in freshly fallen snow has stirred unease and fascination among locals and online researchers alike. The photographs were taken one morning by a resident walking through the back of his wood lot with his dog. At first glance, the scene appears ordinary: a snow-covered forest, sparse undergrowth, and a narrow trail winding through the trees. Yet embedded in the snow were impressions that seemed profoundly out of place, defying simple explanation. The footprints were striking for their size, depth, and unusual shape. They appeared far larger than those of any known animal native to the region, and their form did not align cleanly with deer, moose, bear, or any other commonly encountered wildlife. Locals familiar with the area's fauna quickly remarked that there was no animal in central Maine large enough, or built in such a way, to leave tracks like these. The impressions suggested weight, balance, and structure that felt disturbingly human-like, yet clearly not human at all. What deepened the mystery was the apparent gait of the tracks. They followed a steady, purposeful line through the woods, spaced in a manner that suggested a long stride and confident movement. There were no signs of dragging, stumbling, or hesitation. Whatever left the footprints seemed to know exactly where it was going. The surrounding snow showed no evidence of accompanying animal tracks, broken branches, or disturbed vegetation that might indicate a known species passing through. It was as if the forest had briefly allowed something unfamiliar to cross its surface, leaving behind only this fleeting imprint. As images of the footprints circulated, amateur researchers and folklore enthusiasts began drawing connections to long-standing regional legends. For more than a century, stories of a werewolf-like humanoid, often referred to as the Dog Man, have circulated throughout parts of Maine and the wider New England region. Descriptions of this entity commonly include a tall, powerful build, elongated limbs, and feet capable of leaving impressions unlike those of any conventional animal. Many observers noted that the shape and size of the main footprints closely matched these historical accounts. According to local law, sightings of such a creature often occur in remote, wooded areas during quiet hours, particularly in regions where human presence is sparse. Witnesses frequently describe an overwhelming sense of being watched, even when no figure is visible. While the individual who discovered the footprints did not report seeing anything unusual beyond the tracks themselves, the location and circumstances fit eerily well with decades of similar reports. The forest where the prints were found has long been considered unremarkable, simply another stretch of privately owned woodland. Yet moments like this challenge that perception, reminding people how little is truly understood about the wild spaces that still exist beyond towns and roads. The footprints vanished as the snow melted, leaving no physical trace behind. What remains are the photographs, the testimony of those who saw them, and the lingering question of what walked through that Maine forest on that cold morning. For those who believe, the tracks represent tangible evidence that something unknown continues to move unseen through familiar landscapes. Mysterious rock art. This mysterious rock art found at Karahunga in Armenia continues to captivate researchers, historians, and those drawn to ancient mysteries. Karahunga, often referred to as the Armenian Stonehenge, is believed to be approximately 7,500 years old, making it one of the oldest known stone circle complexes in the world. Comprised of massive standing stones arranged across a windswept plateau, the site has long been associated with advanced astronomical knowledge that appears far beyond what is typically attributed to prehistoric societies. Among the most intriguing features of Karahunga are several stones etched with strange humanoid figures. These figures appear elongated, with oversized heads and large, dark eyes carved into the rock surface. Their proportions differ noticeably from traditional human representations found in ancient art, giving them an otherworldly quality. Some figures seem to be depicted with outstretched arms, while others appear to be interacting with one another, as if engaged in a shared purpose or ritual. What deepens the mystery is the site's precise astronomical alignment. Many of the stones at Karahunga contain carefully drilled holes that align with celestial objects. Most significant among these alignments is the orientation toward Deneb, the brightest star in the constellation of Cygnus, also known as the Swan. Researchers have noted that the key holes within the stones appear to frame this star during specific times of the year, suggesting that the builders of Karahunga possessed a sophisticated understanding of the night sky and its movements. Supporters of the ancient astronaut theory believe these carvings may depict encounters with non-human visitors. They point out that similar humanoid figures with large heads and halo-like outlines appear in ancient cave paintings, petroglyphs, and stone carvings across multiple continents. From the deserts of Africa to the caves of Europe and the highlands of South America, the recurring imagery suggests a shared experience or observation recorded independently by different cultures. According to this interpretation, ancient people may have witnessed advanced beings descending from the sky in what they described using the language available to them. Without modern concepts such as spacecraft, they often referred to these objects as flying chariots or celestial vehicles. The humanoid figures etched into the stones at Karahunga may represent these visitors, depicted with head coverings or helmets that appeared unfamiliar and extraordinary to early observers. The alignment with Cygnus adds another layer of intrigue. Cygnus has long been associated in various mythologies with divine beings, gateways, and celestial origins. Some theorists propose that the focus on Deneb suggests an intentional connection between the figures carved into the stone and the stars themselves, as if the site functioned as both a meeting place and a message left for future generations. Whether viewed through the lens of archaeology, astronomy, or ancient mystery, the rock art at Karahunga remains profoundly compelling. Mysterious photograph taken in Willard Library. A single still image captured from a live camera feed inside the Willard Library in Evansville, Indiana, has become one of the most unsettling pieces of paranormal evidence associated with the historic building. The photograph originates from the library's children's room and was recorded during the afternoon on the 8th of August, 2003, At that time, the room was empty, with no staff or children present, yet the camera captured something that should not have been there. The Willard Library is widely regarded as one of the most haunted buildings in the world. For years, the library has streamed live video from several rooms, allowing viewers to observe the quiet interior after hours. Many viewers tune in specifically hoping to witness unexplained activity. On this particular afternoon, one viewer noticed a dark, crouched figure moving slowly across the carpeted floor of the children's room. The shape appeared low to the ground, with an unnatural posture that did not resemble a child or an adult walking normally. What makes the photograph especially disturbing is the figure's movement. It appears to be crawling rather than walking, with its body hunched forward and limbs positioned in an unusual manner. The outline is vague, yet unmistakably solid, casting a presence that feels deliberate rather than accidental. Moments later, according to witnesses watching the live feed, the figure vanished entirely without exiting the room in any visible way. Library staff later confirmed that no children, adults, or animals were inside the children's room at the time the image was captured. There were no events, no cleaning crews, and no known explanation for how a physical person could have entered and left the space unnoticed. The cameras showed no technical malfunction, no distortion, and no interruption in the feed. Those familiar with the Willard Library's long history of reported activity believe this image represents one of the spirits said to roam the building. Over the years, visitors and staff have reported hearing footsteps, seeing shadowy figures, and sensing unseen presences, particularly in areas connected to children's collections. This photograph stands out because it was not staged, not photographed deliberately, and not noticed until after the moment had passed. The figure appeared briefly, was captured without intention, and then was gone. As with many unexplained moments at the Willard Library, the image offers no answers, only a chilling reminder that something unseen may still linger quietly between the shelves. The mysterious Lech Kaczynski incident. The Lech Kaczynski incident stands as one of the most detailed and unsettling humanoid encounter reports to emerge from the early years of the 21st century. What makes the case particularly compelling is not only the vivid description of the beings themselves, but the sequence of events that unfolded around the encounter, including apparent physical traces left behind in a nearby field. Taken together, the testimony, the environmental evidence, and the consistency of the witness have caused many researchers to regard the case as both credible and deeply significant. In the early morning hours of the 11th of August 2003, Lech Kaczynski was following his usual routine. A professional truck driver, he was traveling before dawn along the quiet roads outside the Polish town of Szczecinek on his way to work. The hour was approximately 20 minutes past 4 in the morning, a time when traffic was minimal and the landscape was still wrapped in darkness. As he approached a bridge just beyond the town limits, something entirely unexpected appeared directly in his path. Standing in the roadway was a strange figure, positioned as though waiting. As Kaczynski slowed his vehicle and focused more closely, he noticed that the figure had one arm raised, a gesture that seemed calm rather than aggressive. Behind this figure stood two more, one on either side, all three aligned in a manner that appeared deliberate and coordinated. The driver brought his vehicle to a full stop, overcome not by panic, but by a sudden sense of disbelief at what he was seeing. As the distance between him and the figures closed, Kaczynski became acutely aware that their appearance was unlike anything he had encountered before. They were humanoid in structure, roughly the height of an adult human, with heads, arms, and legs proportioned in a familiar way. Yet there was something profoundly unnatural about them that he struggled to articulate. Their clothing resembled suits similar to those worn by astronauts, constructed from a dull, silvery material that reflected light softly rather than sharply. The fabric appeared elastic and slightly inflated, as though designed to protect the wearer from an internal or external environment. Each figure wore a helmet with a dark visor that concealed their faces. Where facial features should have been visible, there was only a smooth black surface. Embedded into the chest area of each suit was a rectangular panel containing rows of small lights. Kaczynski recalled that there were 7 lights in each row, flashing continuously in different colors. On their backs were devices resembling backpacks, reinforcing the impression that the suits served a functional purpose rather than a symbolic one. One of the figures stepped forward and approached the driver's side of the vehicle. Leaning in, it peered through the window, bringing its helmet close enough that Kaczynski could see movement behind the visor. Through the darkness, he became aware of two large, round, black eyes observing him. The effect was deeply unsettling. Overcome with fear, Kaczynski attempted to restart his vehicle and leave the area immediately. Before he could do so, a sudden beam of light emerged from the top of the humanoid's helmet and projected directly toward him. At that moment, Kaczynski lost awareness of his surroundings. When he regained consciousness several minutes later, the scene had changed dramatically. The fear he had felt moments before was gone, replaced by an overwhelming sense of calm. He became aware of a voice speaking inside his mind, clear and composed, assuring him that there was no need for alarm. The voice asked if he could hear them, and without moving his lips, Kaczynski responded mentally that he could. A telepathic exchange followed, during which the beings expressed curiosity about his vehicle. They asked detailed questions about the materials from which it was constructed, the nature of its fuel, and the principles by which it operated. As Kaczynski provided the information to the best of his ability, he sensed genuine surprise and interest from the entities. Their attention then shifted to broader concerns, and they conveyed a warning regarding humanity's relationship with the natural world. They emphasized the importance of respecting and protecting the planet, cautioning that failure to do so would result in severe consequences for life on Earth. When Kaczynski asked where they came from, the response he received was simple, yet astonishing. They stated that they were from 8 Galaxy. The phrasing was unusual, but the implication was unmistakable. The exchange ended soon after, and the beings withdrew from the interaction without hostility or urgency. Kaczynski then observed the 3 humanoids rise gently from the ground, hovering several meters above the roadway. They moved together toward a large disc-shaped craft situated nearby. The witness was uncertain whether the object had been present throughout the encounter or had appeared only at that moment. The craft was enormous, estimated to be approximately 150 feet in diameter and positioned roughly 1,000 feet from his vehicle. Along its upper section were several rows of windows, and at its center was a structure resembling an opaque chamber. As the beings gathered beneath the craft, a brilliant blue-white light descended from its underside. The light enveloped them and lifted them upward into the object with apparent ease. Once they were inside, the light vanished and was replaced by a cloud of colored smoke that wrapped around the craft's exterior. The object then rose to an altitude of roughly 100 to 150 feet and traveled horizontally for several seconds, the smoke trailing alongside it. After a brief pause and a soft buzzing sound, the craft ascended rapidly into the sky and disappeared. In the aftermath of the encounter, Kaczynski noticed something equally remarkable. In the field where the craft had been positioned, there were visible indentations in the ground, matching the outline of the underside of the object. These markings were documented with photographs after the incident was reported. While skepticism is always present in cases of this nature, the physical traces lent additional weight to Kaczynski's account. Investigators who spoke with him noted his consistency, emotional sincerity, and lack of sensationalism. The connection between this encounter and crop markings has drawn particular attention. While many crop formations are complex and geometric, the impressions in this case were comparatively simple, suggesting the physical presence of a heavy metallic object rather than an abstract message. This detail aligns closely with the witness testimony and reinforces the idea of a tangible landing rather than a purely symbolic event. Over time, researchers who examined the case came away convinced that Kaczynski was recounting a genuine experience as he perceived it. His background as an ordinary working individual with no apparent motive for fabrication further strengthened this view. The encounter also shares striking similarities with other humanoid reports, including telepathic communication, environmental warnings, and advanced technology. The Lech Kaczynski incident adds another intricate piece to the broader puzzle of unidentified phenomena. It suggests the presence of intelligences capable of direct interaction, observation, and even instruction. Whether these beings originate from distant galaxies, hidden regions of the planet, or a realm not yet understood, their appearance in this case was measured, purposeful, and profoundly impactful. Decades later, the event remains a powerful reminder that some encounters defy simple explanation and continue to challenge humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The strange disappearance of Kristen Deborah Modafferi. The mysterious disappearance of Kristen Deborah Modafferi remains one of the most unsettling and unresolved cases of the late 20th century. Her story is marked by promise, ambition, and a sudden vanishing that left behind questions that have never been fully answered. Kristen Deborah Modafferi was born on the 1st of June, 1979, in Charlotte, North Carolina. She was the second of 4 daughters born to Bob and Debbie Modafferi, and from a young age, she stood out for her intelligence, independence, and creativity. Kristen excelled academically, skipping a grade and graduating from high school a full year early. Her achievements earned her a full scholarship to North Carolina State University, where she pursued a degree in industrial design. Those close to her described her as responsible, curious, and deeply motivated, with a strong sense of direction for her future. In the summer of 1997, Kristen made a decision that felt like the beginning of adulthood. She planned to spend the summer in California, immersing herself in new experiences while taking a photography class at the University of California, Berkeley, which would count toward her degree. She arrived in California on the 1st of June, her 18th birthday, and rented a room in Oakland after responding to an online listing. Shortly after arriving, she secured a job at Spinelli's Coffee, located in the Crocker Galleria in San Francisco's financial district. She also enrolled in a local dance class, filling her days with learning, work, and exploration. Kristen's photography course was scheduled to begin on the 24th of June. The day before, on the 23rd of June, she worked an early shift at Spinelli's Coffee from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Her co-workers later recalled that Kristen rarely lingered after work. She was eager to see the city and often left promptly at the end of her shift, sometimes asking colleagues for suggestions on places to visit. On that day, she mentioned the possibility of going to Land's End, a scenic coastal area, though those who spoke with her described her as uncertain about her plans. What is known with certainty is that Kristen left work alone. However, at approximately 3:45 that afternoon, several co-workers reported seeing her again inside the Crocker Galleria. She was on the 2nd level, walking beside a blonde woman. The two appeared to be together, engaged in conversation, not merely passing by one another. This brief sighting would become the last confirmed moment Kristen Modafferi was seen. Kristen never returned to collect her paycheck. The following day, she did not appear for her photography class, nor did she return to the house in Oakland where she had been staying. Her roommates, who did not know her well and were accustomed to her frequent outings, did not immediately realize anything was wrong. When Kristen failed to call her parents, Bob and Debbie left messages on the house answering machine. Days passed before one of the roommates returned the call, stating that Kristen had not been seen. Alarmed, her parents boarded the first flight to California. When the Modafferis reported their daughter missing, they encountered an immediate obstacle. Kristen had recently turned 18 and was therefore considered a missing adult. Authorities initially questioned whether she might have left voluntarily or encountered an accident. Her parents firmly rejected this idea. Kristen was responsible, excited about her upcoming class, and deeply connected to her family. She would not have vanished without contacting them. Frustrated by the slow response, the family began canvassing the city themselves, distributing flyers and speaking to anyone who might have seen her. Eventually, law enforcement intensified their efforts. Tracking dogs were brought in, and Kristen's scent was traced to Land's End. However, she had attended a gathering there 2 days earlier, on the 21st of June, making it unclear whether the scent was connected to the day she vanished. Her co-workers and roommates were questioned and ruled out as being involved. The blonde woman seen with Kristen that afternoon was never identified. During a search of Kristen's rented room, investigators discovered a personal advertisement torn from an issue of the San Francisco Bay Guardian. The ad sought friends to share activities such as photography, coffee, walks, and exploring the Bay Area. By the time the ad was found, the publication's records had already been erased during routine maintenance. It was never confirmed whether Kristen placed the ad herself or if it was connected to someone she had recently met. On the 10th of July, 1997, a disturbing development emerged when a local television station received a call from a man named John Onuma. He claimed that 2 women he knew were responsible for Kristen's disappearance, allegedly driven by jealousy. When questioned by police, Onuma admitted the call was fabricated, made out of anger toward the women he named. While those women were cleared, Onuma remained a person of interest. Other women came forward describing troubling behavior, including manipulation and intimidation. It was also reported that he sometimes used women to introduce him to others, raising questions about the unidentified blonde woman. Despite these concerns, no formal action was taken, and Onuma later moved to Hawaii. Years passed with no answers. In 2015, specially trained dogs detected the scent of human remains in the basement of the house where Kristen had stayed. Testing revealed the presence of blood that shared markers with her parents, though it could not be conclusively linked to Kristen herself. Because she had lived in the house, the findings remained inconclusive. Kristen's parents transformed their grief into action. They worked tirelessly to advocate for changes in how missing adult cases were handled. Their efforts led to the creation of what became known as Kristen's Law, designed to provide greater support to families and law enforcement in adult missing person cases. The legislation was signed into law by President Bill Clinton in the year 2000. Kristen Modafferi was 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighed approximately 140 pounds, and had brown hair, brown eyes, and distinctive dimples. She was last seen wearing a black Spinelli's coffee shirt, tan pants, and a dark blue flannel shirt, carrying a green JanSport backpack with library books inside. Decades later, Kristen's disappearance remains unresolved. No confirmed trace of her has ever been found. Her case continues to echo as a reminder of how someone vibrant and full of promise can vanish in the midst of a busy city, leaving behind only fragments, unanswered questions, and a family still searching for truth. The mystery of Michael Edwin Heron. The disappearance of Michael Edwin Heron stands as one of the most unsettling and enduring mysteries to emerge from the shadowed edges of the Great Smoky Mountains. It is a case marked not by dramatic evidence or clear answers, but by an eerie absence of clues, a vanishing that seems to defy logic, experience, and even the natural order of the wilderness itself. On a warm, late summer morning in East Tennessee, a man deeply familiar with his land, his surroundings, and the rugged terrain of Happy Valley simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only a silent machine and unanswered questions that continue to echo years later. Michael Edwin Heron, known to everyone as Mike, was 51 years old on the morning of the 23rd of August, 2008. At approximately 11 in the morning, neighbors observed him riding his 4-wheel drive all-terrain vehicle near his 100-acre farm on Bell Branch Road in Blount County, Tennessee. The land lies along the outer boundary of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, an area defined by dense forest, rolling ridges, hidden hollows, and a wilderness that has long inspired both reverence and unease. That brief sighting would become the final confirmed moment of Mike Heron's life, as it was known to those who loved him. Mike was not a man unfamiliar with isolation or rugged environments. He was born and raised in East Tennessee and had spent his youth immersed in the landscape that would later become the setting of his disappearance. As a young man, he attended Lanier High School, where he played football and developed the physical strength and discipline that would characterize him throughout his life. After graduating, he worked for the Park Service trimming trails, a job that required intimate knowledge of the land, attention to detail, and an understanding of how people and terrain interact. Later, he became a third-generation home builder, founding Michael Heron Builders, a successful construction business that would later involve both of his sons, Matt and Andy. By the time of his disappearance, Mike was financially stable and well-established. His company had sold much of its housing inventory before the housing market downturn of the late 2000s, and there were no indications of financial strain, desperation, or instability. He owned cattle, maintained his land meticulously, and spent most weekends at his farm in Happy Valley. He explored caves, walked deep into the adjacent national park, and navigated the wilderness with confidence earned over decades. Those closest to him described him as capable, grounded, and deeply connected to his family. The geography of Happy Valley is essential to understanding the mystery. It is an unincorporated community of roughly 500 residents, nestled in a narrow valley on the northwestern fringe of the Great Smoky Mountains. Chilhowie Mountain rises to the north, while Pine Mountain and Hatcher Mountain form natural barriers to the south. Happy Valley Ridge closes off the east, separating the valley from higher elevations known locally as Lake in the Sky and the Top of the World Community. The terrain is thick with vegetation, uneven slopes, and natural obstacles that would normally leave unmistakable signs of passage. Broken branches, disturbed leaves, crushed undergrowth, and footprints are expected in such environments, especially when a grown man moves through them. On the morning of his disappearance, Mike's routine appeared entirely normal. At approximately 9:30 in the morning, he called his son Andy, who was 26 years old at the time, to tell him he was leaving his condo in Maryville and heading to pick up a lawnmower and trailer. He planned to mow grass on a neighboring 40-acre property owned by missionaries who had been away for some time. He also left a voicemail for his other son, Matt, who was 25, conveying the same plan. Both sons spoke with him or heard from him that morning, and neither detected anything unusual in his voice or demeanor. Andy told his father that he was not home at the time of the call, but was on his way back and could help load the mower. Mike replied that if Andy did not want to wait, he could handle it himself. The two lived approximately 30 minutes apart, and Andy said he expected either to see his father loading the mower or pass him on the road. That expectation was fulfilled when Andy passed his father on Gateway Road. Mike was towing the mower and heading toward East Lamar Alexander Parkway, likely bound for Bell Branch Road. Andy noticed nothing out of the ordinary, and later said there was no sense of urgency, distress, or distraction. Later that morning, neighbors near the end of Bell Branch Road observed Mike pulling into his driveway with the mower and trailer. Because his property sits near a dead end, he passed several other farms on his way home, further confirming his presence. After that moment, silence followed. Mike was not seen again. The following day, Sunday the 24th of August, concern began to surface. Mike's mother, Alma, attempted to contact him, but received no response. While cell phone service in Happy Valley was notoriously unreliable, it was still unusual for Mike not to check in. That morning, Alma and Mike's father walked approximately 5 minutes from their home on Happy Valley Road to Mike's farmhouse on Bell Branch Road. They knocked on the door, but no one answered. Mike's truck was parked in the driveway with the mower and trailer still attached, and the grass remained unmowed. Though this was noted, the family initially believed Mike was likely tending to his cattle or working elsewhere on the property. By Monday morning, the 25th of August, unease had turned into alarm. Alma again attempted to contact her son and failed. She called Matt and Andy early that morning, expressing her belief that something was wrong. This prompted immediate action. Matt drove to Mike's condo in Maryville, where he stayed several nights a week. Inside, nothing appeared disturbed. 2 vehicles, a Mercedes and a Harley motorcycle, remained in the garage. The bed was made, the lights were off, and there was no indication that Mike had been there recently. Only his pickup truck was missing, which Matt already knew was at the farm. Matt then met Andy, and together they drove to the Bell Branch property. Alma had returned to the farmhouse and confirmed that nothing had changed. The truck remained parked, the mower still attached. The sons noticed details that deeply unsettled them. The truck doors were unlocked, the windows were down, and inside the vehicle were Mike's keys, his identification, his money clip, and his cell phone. These were items he never left behind. Equally disturbing was the realization that the all-terrain vehicle their grandmother had seen was not the new one Mike had recently purchased. The newer four-wheeler was missing. The position of the truck also raised concerns. A school bus was scheduled to arrive on the property on Monday morning, and Mike always moved his truck beforehand to ensure access. This time, he had not done so. For his sons, the missing four-wheeler suggested the possibility of an accident somewhere on the property or nearby land. They repaired a flat tire on the older ATV and began searching the trails and campgrounds, extending their efforts into the nearby national park. There was no sign of their father. By mid-afternoon on Monday, the family contacted emergency services. Jurisdictional confusion briefly delayed the response, as the property lies just outside the national park boundary, but the Blount County Sheriff's Office ultimately took the report. Search teams arrived between 6 and 7 in the evening, just as darkness fell. Sniffer dogs attempted to pick up a scent, but failed to find anything beyond the truck. Heavy rain began falling within an hour of the search and continued for several days, further complicating efforts. The following morning, Tuesday the 26th of August, the search intensified. One of Mike's neighbors, Grady Whitehead, volunteered to assist. In his 80s, Grady had served as a park ranger in the Great Smoky Mountains from 1955 until 1988 and possessed exceptional tracking skills. He had seen Mike briefly on the day he disappeared and was confident that signs would be visible if Mike had moved through the brush. Despite his experience and determination, no such signs were found. At 12:05 in the afternoon, a friend discovered Mike's missing all-terrain vehicle near Happy Valley Loop, approximately 1 mile from his house. The location was unfamiliar territory for Mike and lay near an abandoned cabin, close to but not inside the national park. The vehicle appeared to have been abandoned abruptly. It was not parked carefully, showed no damage, and still contained fuel. The ignition was left on, the kill switch was off, and the vehicle was in high gear on a steep hill. For Matt and Andy, this discovery eliminated the possibility of an accident. Their father would never leave his ATV in such a state. The surrounding area revealed nothing. There were no footprints, no broken branches, no disturbed soil, and no trail through the dense undergrowth. Search dogs could not detect a scent. There was no evidence of an animal encounter, no torn clothing, and no biological traces. It was as though Mike had vanished from the physical world entirely. Over the following days, hundreds of volunteers and officials searched approximately 450 acres, including areas searched multiple times. Helicopters, drones, mounted deputies, cadaver dogs, divers, and extensive ground teams combed the region. Nearly 50 miles of trails were examined. 2 ponds on Mike's property were dragged. Cadaver dogs from North Carolina detected nothing. The rain had erased potential evidence, but even accounting for weather, the absence remained inexplicable. Those who knew Mike were united in one belief. He would not have voluntarily disappeared. He was deeply connected to his family, especially his parents and sons. Andy had married his wife, Casey, only 3 months earlier, and Mike spoke often of becoming a grandfather. He had plans to build a cabin on the property, install a pool, and create a future centered around family and land. There was no indication of despair, withdrawal, or desire to leave his life behind. As years passed, no financial activity occurred. No bank accounts were accessed. No identification surfaced. No sightings were reported. The case gradually slipped from public attention, but for those who loved him, the silence only deepened the wound. Mike Herron's disappearance remains unresolved, not because of lack of effort, but because the wilderness yielded nothing in return. In the shadow of the Great Smoky Mountains, where mist clings to ridges and ancient forests seem to breathe, the story of Mike Herron lingers. It is not a tale of clear tragedy or simple misfortune, but of a man who knew the land and vanished without a trace. His abandoned ATV stands as a silent testament to a moment when normal life fractured without warning. The mystery endures, etched into the valleys of Happy Valley, waiting in the quiet spaces between trees where answers have yet to be found. In 2014, a remarkable discovery was made while examining photographs taken by NASA's Curiosity rover on Mars. UFO researchers spotted a cigar-shaped object hovering above the Martian surface, an anomaly that has since sparked widespread speculation and intrigue. The images, captured by Curiosity's right-hand navigation camera on May 4th, show what appears to be a long, cylindrical white object suspended in the Martian sky for approximately 16 minutes. This unusual sighting has led many to question whether extraterrestrial activity is being observed around Mars, and whether NASA is withholding crucial information about the presence of unknown objects orbiting the red planet. Curiosity has been actively exploring the Gale crater on Mars since 2012, capturing thousands of raw images as part of its mission to study the planet's surface, atmosphere, and geological history. These images are sent back to Earth for analysis, providing scientists and independent researchers alike with an opportunity to examine every aspect of the Martian environment. It was during one of these routine examinations that UFO enthusiasts noticed something unusual, a sleek, elongated object hovering in the sky, unlike anything previously observed on Mars. The shape and appearance of the object immediately caught the attention of researchers. Unlike the usual debris, dust particles, or camera anomalies that can sometimes appear in space imagery, This object exhibited characteristics that suggested it was something far more structured and deliberate. The cylindrical shape has been widely reported in past UFO sightings, particularly those involving so-called cigar-shaped UFOs, which have been observed on Earth for decades. The fact that an object with similar features has now been captured hovering over Mars raises profound questions about the possibility of extraterrestrial activity in the Martian orbit. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of this sighting is that the object remained in the air for 16 minutes. If this were merely an artifact of the camera, an issue with light exposure, or an optical illusion, it would not have persisted for such a significant length of time. Additionally, given Mars's thin atmosphere and lack of strong winds capable of suspending objects in mid-air, the possibility that this was some form of natural debris seems highly unlikely. Researchers argue that the object's presence, position, and duration suggest deliberate movement or control, rather than an uncontrolled environmental phenomenon. This sighting is not the first time cigar-shaped UFOs have been linked to space exploration. If the object seen in Curiosity's 2014 images is indeed an advanced craft, it raises several critical questions. Why was it hovering over Mars? Was it observing the rover, or did it have a separate mission on the planet? Some researchers speculate that Mars, being one of the most Earth-like planets in our solar system, could be of interest to extraterrestrial visitors. If intelligent life exists elsewhere, it would make sense for them to monitor planets that hold potential for life or future colonization. The idea that we are not alone in exploring Mars is both exciting and unsettling. NASA has remained silent on the issue, providing no clear explanation for the anomaly. The space agency has a long history of dismissing UFO-related findings, often attributing them to camera glitches, reflections, or natural phenomena. However, given the object's clear shape, prolonged presence, and structured appearance, these conventional explanations fall short. The lack of an official statement has only fueled speculation that NASA is withholding evidence of extraterrestrial encounters. Some argue that the object could be space debris or a speck of dust on the camera lens, but these explanations fail to account for the sustained appearance of the object for over 16 minutes. If it were dust or a photographic artifact, it would likely appear in only one frame or change position erratically. Instead, the cigar-shaped UFO remained consistently in view, behaving in a way that suggests it was a physical object hovering in Martian airspace. Another interesting aspect of this sighting is the possibility that extraterrestrial beings are already observing Mars. Some theorists propose that intelligent civilizations might have been monitoring our space missions for decades, ensuring that human activity in space does not interfere with their own operations. If this were the case, the presence of the cylindrical UFO near Curiosity would make perfect sense. It could be a probe or a reconnaissance craft sent to observe the rover's activities. The discovery of this object also aligns with previous UFO sightings around Mars, as well as claims made by former NASA employees and astronauts who have hinted at strange encounters in space. Over the years, multiple images from various Mars missions have depicted unexplained lights, hovering objects, and even structures on the Martian surface. While NASA typically ignores or downplays these findings, the sheer volume of anomalies suggests that there is far more happening on Mars than we are being told. With new Mars missions and advanced imaging technology on the horizon, researchers are hopeful that even more evidence will emerge in the coming years. Space agencies such as NASA, ESA, and SpaceX continue to send rovers and probes to the Red Planet, increasing the likelihood that another unexplained craft could be caught on camera. If intelligent extraterrestrial beings are indeed monitoring Mars, the possibility of a future encounter or more direct evidence grows stronger. The 2014 cigar-shaped UFO sighting near Mars remains one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for extraterrestrial activity beyond Earth. Its structured appearance, prolonged duration, and similarity to other known UFOs make it difficult to dismiss. Whether this was an alien craft, an unknown space vehicle, or something beyond human comprehension, one thing is clear: Mars continues to be a hotspot for mysteries that defy explanation. As more images and data from Mars missions continue to surface, the world may soon be forced to confront the reality that we are not alone, and we may have never been alone to begin with. Oddly enough, this isn't the first time that a strange object has been seen close to Mars. The Phobos 2 mission, remains one of the most mysterious and controversial space explorations in history. Launched in July 1988, it was the second Soviet spacecraft sent to study Mars's mysterious moon, Phobos. The mission's primary objectives were to analyze the Martian atmosphere, surface, and gravitational properties of Phobos, but what happened in March 1989 would overshadow the mission's scientific goals and leave one of the most perplexing UFO encounters in space exploration history. On March 27, 1989, just months before Phobos 2-2 lost contact with Earth, the spacecraft captured a series of astonishing images. Among them was an image that would become the subject of intense speculation and debate, a long cylindrical object hovering above the Martian surface. Unlike anything previously observed in space, this object had a smooth, structured appearance and cast a distinct shadow on the Martian terrain below. The shape, size, and alignment of this shadow suggested that it was not a mere trick of light or a natural celestial formation. Instead, it appeared to be an actual, physical object. The presence of this cigar-shaped UFO immediately raised questions about what Phobos 2 had encountered. The object's elongated structure did not match any known asteroid or natural Martian geological formation. Unlike ordinary space debris or celestial bodies, which typically rotate or drift unpredictably, this object appeared to maintain a deliberate, controlled position. Some researchers have pointed out that the structure bore striking similarities to other cigar-shaped UFOs that have been reported throughout history, both on Earth and in space. The fact that an unmanned spacecraft orbiting Mars captured such an object only intensified the mystery. The most puzzling aspect of this encounter was what happened immediately after the photograph was taken. Shortly after transmitting these images back to mission control, Phobos 2 suddenly and inexplicably lost contact. The spacecraft was functioning properly up until this moment, leading to speculation that the encounter with the unidentified object may have played a role in its sudden disappearance. Some researchers suggest that Phobos 2 may have been deliberately disabled to prevent further transmission of images. Whether this was due to an external force or an unknown phenomenon remains a subject of debate. The Soviet Space Agency at the time provided no clear explanation for the loss of Phobos 2. While technical failures are always a possibility in space missions, it is unusual for a spacecraft to suddenly go silent immediately after capturing an unexplained anomaly. This sequence of events led many to believe that the spacecraft may have been interfered with by an unknown intelligence. To this day, the exact cause of Phobos 2's failure remains classified and unsolved. Adding to the intrigue, Russian scientists who were involved in the mission later hinted at the possibility of an external force being responsible for the failure. During a press conference, Soviet space officials acknowledged that something unusual had occurred, but refrained from making definitive statements about what exactly caused the spacecraft to fail. Some reports even suggested that the images taken before the loss of contact were analyzed privately, raising suspicions that more information exists than has been publicly disclosed. One of the most striking aspects of this case is how it aligns with other UFO encounters in space. Over the years, astronauts from both NASA and the Soviet space program have reported seeing unidentified objects in orbit. Many of these objects share the same elongated, cylindrical shape seen in the Phobos 2 images. Some theorists propose that these objects are not random anomalies, but part of an ongoing extraterrestrial presence in space, monitoring human activities beyond Earth. Additionally, the location of this encounter is noteworthy. Phobos, the Martian moon that the spacecraft was sent to study, has been the subject of speculation for decades. Some scientists have suggested that Phobos itself may not be a natural moon, but rather a hollowed-out artificial structure. It exhibits strange orbital behaviors, and radar scans have hinted at unusual internal compositions. If there is any truth to the idea that Phobos is more than just a natural satellite, then the presence of an unidentified object near it becomes even more significant. Many researchers believe that the Phobos 2 incident is one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that we are not alone. The clear, structured shape of the object, the fact that it cast a distinct shadow, and the mysterious loss of the spacecraft immediately after taking the image all suggest that this was not a simple technical failure or natural occurrence. If Phobos 2 had merely malfunctioned due to mechanical issues, there would be no reason to associate its failure with the appearance of the cylindrical UFO. However, The timing of events and the peculiar nature of the object in the image make this one of the most unexplained encounters in space exploration. To this day, NASA and other space agencies have not officially commented on the Phobos 2 UFO images, nor have they provided any explanations that satisfy the questions raised by researchers. The lack of transparency surrounding this case has only fueled further suspicion. Was Phobos 2's transmission intentionally disrupted to keep the world from seeing something we weren't meant to see? With modern space exploration technology improving, the possibility of future encounters with similar objects is very real. Private space agencies, such as SpaceX, are now launching their own missions to Mars, meaning that more eyes than ever before are watching the Martian surface. If there is indeed something out there, it is only a matter of time before more evidence surfaces. The Phobos 2 incident stands as a reminder that space is still a vast and largely unknown frontier. While scientific missions seek to uncover the secrets of the universe, there may be forces at play that we do not yet fully understand. The presence of an unidentified, structured object hovering near Mars, captured by a government spacecraft before its mysterious disappearance, is a story that demands further investigation. Until more answers emerge, the case of Phobos 2 and its final transmission remains one of the most intriguing UFO mysteries of all time. UFOs appearing in Mars images is not a new phenomenon. Over the years, NASA's rovers and orbiters have captured multiple anomalies that have sparked debate among researchers and UFO enthusiasts. The Curiosity rover, Perseverance, and older missions like Viking and Spirit have all recorded strange objects in the Martian sky that resemble classic UFO shapes, including orbs, disks, and cylindrical objects. These sightings have led many to believe that Mars is being actively observed by unknown entities. Despite NASA's dismissals, claiming these anomalies are dust particles, reflections, or image artifacts, the consistency of UFO sightings in Mars images raises serious questions. With private companies now exploring Mars, there is hope that future missions will provide undeniable proof of extraterrestrial presence on the red planet. A mysterious discovery off the coast of Peru has reignited fascination with unexplained phenomena captured through satellite imagery. For several years, a peculiar object spotted via Google Earth sparked a wave of speculation and interest among digital explorers and researchers alike. The structure, located deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, drew attention because of its unusual shape, apparent trail, and, most intriguing, the perception that it had moved along the ocean floor. What followed was a viral frenzy, filled with theories ranging from secret government projects to remnants of ancient civilizations, or even evidence of extraterrestrial technology. Now, the mystery has deepened, as the object appears to have been blurred or entirely removed from updated satellite images. The original discovery began quietly, when an observant user of Google Earth's ocean mapping tools noticed an anomaly on the seafloor off the coast of Peru. This wasn't the first time users had spotted strange formations in the ocean, but this object was different. It appeared massive and defined, almost artificial in its symmetry, but more puzzling was the trail it left behind, a long, deep groove stretching across the seafloor, as if the object had ploughed its way through the sediment. The trail wasn't straight either. It bent, implying maneuverability or conscious direction, leading many to suggest the object was moving. As the images began to spread online, forums and social media platforms lit up with discussion. Users speculated wildly, captivated by what they were seeing. Some suggested the object was a massive underwater vehicle or structure, possibly operating with advanced propulsion systems beyond known human technology. The fact that it seemed to be leaving behind a trail gave it a sense of motion, something not often seen in satellite images of underwater terrain. Others believed the trail and object were remnants of something ancient, a sunken city, a colossal machine, or even a hidden base, lost to time and buried under layers of sediment until now. One of the most compelling aspects was the size of the object. While exact dimensions were hard to calculate due to the limitations of Google Earth's bathymetric data, users estimated it to be hundreds of feet in diameter. The object's circular shape and distinct shadows added to the mystery, making it appear as if it were resting or partially embedded in the seabed. Some observers likened it to a dome or saucer-like craft, further fueling theories of alien technology or submerged, unidentified vehicles. Soon, comparisons were drawn to the now infamous Malibu underwater base that had been identified off the coast of California years earlier. That formation also showed what appeared to be an artificial structure with symmetrical pillars or legs, sparking its own media and public interest before being explained away by some scientists as a natural formation. With this new Peruvian sighting, many felt a similar story was unfolding, only this time with an added twist, the implication of movement. One theory suggested that the object could be a long-lost relic of a prehistoric civilization, potentially evidence that humanity's history beneath the waves is richer and more complex than currently acknowledged. Others posited that it was the result of underwater mining or secret military experiments, with the trail being caused by some form of submersible capable of burrowing or cutting through the ocean floor. The presence of what appeared to be a shadow and ridges around the object added weight to claims that it was three-dimensional and not simply an illusion of seafloor topology. However, what escalated the situation further was a later development. Users returning to Google Earth to re-examine the object found that it had been altered or obscured. In newer satellite data, the once clear object appeared blurry or had been entirely removed. This led to widespread speculation that the object had been deliberately censored or scrubbed from public view. The deliberate blurring only added to suspicions. Why, many asked, would they hide an image of something that could be explained as natural? If it was just a rock formation or optical illusion, why remove it? This apparent deletion echoed a familiar pattern seen with other controversial Google Earth discoveries. In several instances, users have reported strange landforms or objects only for those features to later be blurred or obscured. These incidents have added to growing distrust among digital archaeologists and curious observers who believe valuable information about our planet's unexplored regions, especially the ocean floor, is being concealed. The ocean covers more than 70% of Earth's surface, yet remains the least explored region. Much of the seabed is mapped only in low resolution, making anomalies like this all the more tantalizing. The blend of poor data resolution and natural topography can easily lead to pareidolia, where the human brain interprets vague stimuli as familiar shapes. But even with that in mind, the distinct characteristics of the Peruvian anomaly, its symmetrical circular shape, the trailing groove, and its seeming disappearance, give it a peculiar edge that resists simple dismissal. To this day, the exact nature of the object remains unknown. Oceanographers and geologists have offered explanations ranging from sediment displacement and sonar artifacting to entirely natural geological processes. However, in the absence of direct investigation or high-resolution imagery, these remain speculative. No official organization has confirmed any exploration of the object's location, nor has there been a public effort to conduct further studies. What is known is that this object continues to capture the imagination of people around the world. Its mysterious appearance and subsequent disappearance mirror the broader narrative of how the deep ocean still holds countless secrets, some of which we may not be ready or allowed to uncover. Whether this was a natural formation misinterpreted through the lens of curiosity or something far more profound remains to be seen. This mysterious seafloor sighting serves as a modern reminder of humanity's persistent desire to seek the unknown. With tools like Google Earth, amateur explorers have gained unprecedented access to view the farthest reaches of the planet. These tools have the potential to uncover lost history, challenge scientific consensus, or simply inspire awe, but they also raise questions about transparency, censorship, and the limits of public knowledge in an age where digital surveillance extends from deep space to the bottom of the ocean. In a notable event, the FBI made public a vast collection of files documenting various interactions with unidentified flying objects. Among these records, one particular report garnered significant attention due to its detailed accounts not only concerning these mysterious aerial phenomena, but also providing insights into the occupants of these crafts. What would happen if we attacked them, and the advanced technology incorporated in the functioning of these spacecraft? The document reads as follows. A very serious situation may develop at any time with regard to the flying saucers. If one of these should be attacked, the attacking plane will almost certainly be destroyed. In the public mind, this might create near panic and international suspicion. The principal data concerning these craft is now at hand and must be offered, no matter how fantastic and unintelligible it may seem to minds not previously instructed in thinking of this type. Part of the disk carry crews, others are under control. Their mission is peaceful. The visitors contemplate settling on this planet. These visitors are human-like, but much larger in size. They are not excarnate Earth people, but come from their own world. They do not come from any planet as we use the word, but from another planet, which interpenetrates with our own and is not perceptible to us. The bodies of the visitors and the craft also automatically materialize on entering the vibratory rate of our matter. The disks possess a type of radiant energy, or a ray which will easily disintegrate any attacking ship. They re-enter the etheric at will, and so simply disappear from our vision without a trace. The region from which they come is not the astral plane, but corresponds to the lokes or tails. Students of these matters will understand these terms. They probably cannot be reached by radio, but can be reached by radar if a signal system can be devised." End quote. Numerous individuals who have perused this particular document have expressed that it serves as compelling evidence supporting our understanding of these entities and the advanced technology they possess. Their testimonials indicate a consensus that the content within demonstrates our familiarity with these beings and their technological advancements. Those intrigued by uncharted territories have posited that this constitutes a revelation, highlighting that our authorities have been aware of the existence of these flying vessels for an extended period. In the present moment, there is a prevailing belief that the reluctance of officials to acknowledge awareness of these enigmatic objects stems from the potential apprehension it could instigate among the public. This hesitation to disclose information on such mysterious phenomena is thought to be driven by concerns regarding the impact it may have on public perception. In modern times, a prevailing belief exists that we have surpassed the era where secrecy shrouded discussions about unidentified phenomena. This has led to a growing demand for governmental transparency regarding their knowledge of unidentified objects. Researchers have posited that such documents offer a fascinating glimpse into their knowledge, providing valuable insights and perspectives into their understanding. These scholarly materials not only showcase their expertise, but also shed light on their intellectual depth and areas of expertise. It is interesting to note that these documents are over 60 years old, raising questions about the extent of additional information available regarding this subject in contemporary times. One cannot help but wonder about the wealth of data and insights these historical documents may still offer in the present day. Recently declassified documents from the Central Intelligence Agency have shed light on the government's interest in UFO phenomena, yet many of these documents remain heavily redacted. The CIA's involvement in UFO investigations dates back to around the 1940s, when reports of unidentified aerial phenomena began to proliferate across the United States and around the world. Concerned about the potential national security implications of these sightings, the CIA launched a series of classified programs aimed at collecting and analyzing data on UFOs. In recent years, the CIA has declassified and released thousands of documents related to UFO investigations, offering unprecedented insight into the government's role in studying unidentified aerial phenomena. However, many of these documents contain significant redactions, obscuring key details and information from public view. The primary reasons cited by the CIA for redacting UFO documents are national security concerns, protection of intelligence sources and methods, and preservation of sensitive information. In some cases, redactions may also be made to comply with privacy laws or to prevent disclosure of classified information that could compromise ongoing investigations or diplomatic relations. Moreover, the nature of UFO sightings and encounters often involves sensitive or classified military operations, intelligence activities, or airspace violations, making it necessary to redact certain details to safeguard sensitive information or prevent unauthorized disclosure. The redaction of UFO documents by the CIA has fueled speculation and theories among UFO enthusiasts, skeptics, and the general public. Some believe that the redacted portions contain evidence of extraterrestrial visitation or advanced technology withheld by the government to maintain secrecy and control. Others argue that the redactions are necessary to protect legitimate national security interests and prevent the unauthorized disclosure of sensitive information that could jeopardize ongoing investigations or compromise intelligence sources and methods. However, the lack of transparency and incomplete disclosure of UFO documents by the CIA has contributed to public skepticism and distrust of government agencies, leading some to question the motives and intentions behind the redaction of UFO-related information. In recent years, there has been growing pressure on government agencies, including the CIA, to disclose more information about UFOs and related phenomena. Advocates for disclosure argue that greater transparency is essential to promote public trust, foster scientific inquiry, and advance our understanding of the universe. Moreover, advances in technology, such as improved surveillance systems, satellite imagery, and sensor networks, have made it increasingly difficult for governments to conceal information about UFO sightings and encounters. In an era of pervasive surveillance and instant communication, the truth about UFOs may be harder to suppress than ever before. As of right now, the CIA's redaction of UFO documents reflects a complex interplay of national security concerns, intelligence priorities, and public disclosure policies. While the redaction of sensitive information is necessary to protect legitimate national security interests, it also raises questions about transparency, accountability, and the government's obligation to inform the public about matters of public interest. One of the primary reasons why people are ready for UFO disclosure is the rapid advancement of technology that has made it increasingly difficult to conceal information and evidence of UFO sightings. With the proliferation of smartphones, digital cameras, and social media platforms, individuals now have the ability to capture and share sightings of anomalous aerial phenomena in real time, creating a vast and decentralized network of citizen investigators. Moreover, advances in satellite imagery, radar systems, and sensor technologies have enhanced our ability to detect and track unidentified objects in the sky, providing corroborating evidence and empirical data to support UFO claims. As technology continues to evolve, the truth about UFOs may become harder to suppress, leading to greater public awareness and demand for disclosure. Another factor driving the demand for UFO disclosure is the shifting societal attitudes towards the unknown and the paranormal. While UFO sightings were once dismissed as fringe phenomena or the stuff of science fiction, they are now increasingly viewed as legitimate and worthy of serious investigation by mainstream society. Part of this shift can be attributed to the growing body of credible witnesses, including military personnel, pilots, and government officials, who have come forward to share their first-hand accounts of UFO encounters. These testimonials lend credibility and legitimacy to the UFO phenomenon, challenging skeptics and skeptics alike to reconsider their preconceived notions and beliefs. Furthermore, popular culture and media have played a significant role in shaping public perceptions of UFOs, with movies, television shows, and documentaries exploring the possibility of extraterrestrial visitation and government cover-ups. As interest in the paranormal and the unexplained continues to grow, so too does the demand for transparency and disclosure from government authorities. At the heart of humanity's readiness for UFO disclosure is a fundamental curiosity and thirst for knowledge about the universe and our place within it. For millennia, humans have gazed up at the night sky, pondering the mysteries of the cosmos and wondering if we are alone in the universe. The prospect of UFO disclosure represents an opportunity to satisfy our innate curiosity and expand our understanding of the universe by uncovering new truths about the nature of reality and the existence of other intelligent beings. By shedding light on the UFO phenomenon, we may gain insights into advanced technologies, alternative forms of life, and the potential for interstellar communication and cooperation. Moreover, the quest for UFO disclosure reflects a broader desire for transparency, accountability, and truth in government and society. As citizens of a global community, we have a right to know about matters that affect our collective well-being and the future of our planet. By demanding disclosure of UFO information, we affirm our commitment to openness, honesty, and the pursuit of knowledge in the face of the unknown. A little-known UFO researcher named Jamie Chandera discovered an envelope left for him on December 11, 1984. The package contained copies of documents that would alter people's perceptions of the 20th century and the events that may have truly shaped it, but it did not include a return address. Two 35mm film rolls were used to store the actual documents. The title of the first document Chandera looked at was even more intriguing. Briefing Document, Majestic 12, prepared for President-elect Dwight D. Eisenhower. It was stamped Top Secret, Magic Eyes Only. It seemed that the top secret texts disclosed the existence of extraterrestrials on Earth. In order to look into the UFO phenomenon, a group of elite scientists and military figures known as the Majestic 12 was formed in 1947. After looking into the accusations, the FBI rejected the documents, and the Majestic 12 group they spoke of as nothing more than a hoax. They cited specific details, such as the way the date was written, as well as the wording of the documents themselves, as evidence that they were not real or true government documents. On the evening of February 20th, 1954, Eisenhower suddenly vanished. The official reaction to the rapidly spreading suspicions and fears that the president might have passed away was that he had needed emergency dental work and was now doing well. The president was actually hurried off to an urgent meeting with an extraterrestrial species believed to originate from the Pleiades star cluster. Because of their pale skin, blonde hair and blue eyes, they are frequently referred to as the Nordics. It was said that the meeting was held in an unoccupied hangar at Edwards Air Force Base. It seems that the Nordics were promising assistance with technology, medical procedures and improvements, and a switch from fossil fuels to clean energy. However, the precise terms of the conversations are not entirely known. Nevertheless, no agreement could be achieved, and the meeting was called off. The Nordics, also known as the Tall Whites or the Pleiadians, are said to hail from the Pleiades star cluster, located approximately 400 light-years from Earth. According to accounts from contactees and experiencers, the Nordics are characterized by their tall stature, fair complexion, and strikingly beautiful features. With their piercing blue eyes, flowing blonde hair, and ethereal presence, they exude an aura of otherworldly grace and sophistication. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Nordics is their purported role as ambassadors of peace and enlightenment. According to contactees and channelers who claim to have communicated with these beings, the Nordics are said to possess advanced spiritual knowledge and technological prowess far beyond that of humanity. They are said to be emissaries of love and light, dedicated to guiding humanity towards a higher state of consciousness and spiritual evolution. Accounts of encounters with Nordics often describe them as benevolent and compassionate beings, eager to assist humanity in its quest for enlightenment and self-discovery. Whether through telepathic communication, psychic healing, or profound spiritual teachings, the Nordics are said to offer guidance and support to those who seek their wisdom. Some contactees even claim to have been taken aboard their spacecraft and given tours of their advanced civilizations, providing glimpses into a reality that transcends our understanding of space and time. One of the most famous cases involving the Nordics is the alleged contactee experiences of George Adamski, a ufologist and author who claimed to have met with extraterrestrial beings in the 1950s. According to Adamski's accounts, he was taken aboard a spacecraft piloted by humanoid beings known as the Space Brothers, who bore a striking resemblance to the Nordics. Adamski described the beings as peaceful and benevolent, eager to share their wisdom and knowledge with humanity. In addition to Adamski's encounters, there have been numerous other reports of contact with Nordics over the years, each offering unique insights into the nature of these enigmatic beings. Whether through direct encounters, telepathic communication, or psychic visions, the Nordics continue to intrigue and inspire those who seek to understand the mysteries of the cosmos. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Nordics is their purported connection to ancient Earth civilizations and esoteric wisdom traditions. According to some theories, the Nordics have been visiting Earth for millennia, offering guidance and assistance to humanity in times of need. They are said to have influenced the development of ancient cultures and civilizations, imparting knowledge of science, spirituality, and the mysteries of the universe. Moreover, the Nordics are said to be intimately connected to the legend of the Seven Sisters, a prominent constellation in the night sky that has long been revered by cultures around the world. Known as the Pleiades, or the Seven Sisters, this star cluster is said to be the home of the Nordics, who are said to draw their power and wisdom from its celestial energies. It's further reported that Eisenhower and the leaders of the United States were contacted by a second alien race. In contrast to the Nordics, The Greys were able to negotiate a deal with the president that allowed them access to a wealth of technology exclusive to the United States in exchange for the ability to take and experiment on citizens of the nation before erasing their memories and sending them back unharmed. The Cold War and the perceived constant threat posed by the Soviet Union are cited by many who argue that Eisenhower was pressured into signing this agreement. Some amateur researchers have said that if the contact account is accurate, would the Greys have sent this technology to the Russians, giving them the upper hand in the balance of power in the world if the US had not consented? For a brief minute, imagine that Eisenhower had reached and signed this arrangement. Then, you may begin to comprehend why a nation might wish to remain silent about permitting its own population to be taken by an extraterrestrial race in exchange for weaponry and technology. Grey aliens, also known as Zeta Reticulans or Roswell Greys, are typically described as diminutive humanoid beings with large heads, almond-shaped eyes, and slender bodies. While many will argue that these grey aliens are new to humanity, descriptions of them can be found in ancient cave paintings and books such as the Bible. These findings have prompted some researchers to hypothesize that humans have been interacting with these aliens for thousands of years. Despite the diversity in reported appearances, certain characteristics remain consistent across accounts, including their alleged technological sophistication and scientific prowess. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the technological prowess of grey aliens comes from accounts of their involvement in taking individuals and close encounters. Witnesses describe being taken aboard spacecraft piloted by grey aliens, where they are subjected to medical examinations, genetic experimentation, and psychological manipulation. These encounters often involve advanced technology and equipment far beyond our current understanding, suggesting a level of scientific knowledge and expertise that exceeds our own. Reports from individuals who have encountered them often describe the interior of alien spacecraft as sleek and sterile, with advanced computer systems, holographic displays, and medical devices that seem to operate on principles unknown to human science. Some describe being subjected to telepathic communication or virtual reality simulations that blur the line between reality and illusion, suggesting a level of technological sophistication that borders on the supernatural. Moreover, the alleged telepathic abilities of grey aliens suggest a deeper understanding of consciousness and the mind than we currently possess. Witnesses describe being able to communicate with grey aliens telepathically, exchanging thoughts and emotions without the need for spoken language. This suggests a level of mental acuity and cognitive enhancement that far surpasses our own, opening up possibilities for communication and connection that transcend the limitations of verbal language. Another piece of evidence for the technological prowess of grey aliens comes from accounts of their purported influence on human history and civilization. According to some theories, grey aliens have been visiting Earth for millennia, guiding and influencing the development of human culture and technology. From ancient myths and legends to modern inventions and scientific breakthroughs, there are numerous examples of alleged alien influence on human society. According to some accounts, the recovered technology from various crashes, including advanced propulsion systems and materials, was reverse-engineered by government scientists, leading to significant advancements in aerospace technology and military capabilities. In March 1957, a mysterious aircraft landed in Alexandria, Virginia. A police officer on a routine patrol noticed it. A man stepped out of the craft, said calmly, "My name is Valiant Thor," and walked up to the officer. He asked to speak with President Eisenhower, explaining that he was an extraterrestrial sent by the High Council. Thor was brought by the policeman to the Pentagon, where he eventually had a conversation with Eisenhower, the Secretary of Defense, and other Joint Chiefs. As to the narrative, Thor was granted a 3-year VIP status, during which he held multiple meetings with influential figures in the US government. His task was to express the High Council's worries about how humanity was developing, particularly its seeming infatuation with nuclear weapons. It is debatable if Valiant Thor belongs to the same alien race as the Nordics, who are said to have met Eisenhower 3 years prior. In recent years, Eisenhower's great-granddaughter has come forward with more revelations about her father. Laura Eisenhower, the great-granddaughter of Dwight Eisenhower, is certain that all of these meetings took place. She said that these meetings happened in the context of a world that most of us are unaware even exists when questioned about her great-grandfather's experience. She reported that these timelines and the deeper history connected to secret societies connected to these deeper ET agendas that have been around for thousands of years. The agreement reached with the Greys gave rise to the covert space programs, with which she asserts she has dealt extensively and in which more and more whistleblowers are disclosing their personal involvement. There's a long history of aliens and the paranormal. Many cases of repeat alien encounters, they start with symptoms more related to paranormal activity, even if most people don't realize it at the time. For instance, a large number of these individuals claim to have encountered unexpected issues with various electrical devices, most of the time when they are nearby. Occasionally, an electronic gadget may brief out or a television signal may become erratic. Alternatively, some persons may report that little objects like jewelry or decorations just disappear. After then, the item would sporadically and inexplicably resurface. People who see these specific occurrences frequently set up homemade cameras or CCTV in an effort to get a picture of the offender. This sometimes causes the witness further distress, but it also gives us a glimpse into this kind of strange behavior. A lot of people who have started installing these security cameras have frequently recorded unusual occurrences that most people would immediately link to the paranormal. For instance, some people may capture footage of odd spheres moving across a room. Some might catch a haze or a haze. Once more, something that would make the witness believe they had videotaped an apparition or ghost. If they had evidence of life on the other side, rather than life from afar, they would probably be more willing to believe it, and perhaps they are right. Interestingly, the shadow people are possibly the most bizarre and unsettling paranormal events that are documented on these security operations. Additionally, they appear somewhat frequently in stories about contacts with purported aliens. Shadow people are typically described as dark, shadowy figures that appear to flicker and dart at the edges of one's vision. They are often reported to move with unnatural speed and agility, disappearing as suddenly as they appear. While some describe them as featureless silhouettes, others report seeing glowing eyes or malevolent expressions peering out from the darkness. Despite their mysterious nature, encounters with shadow people are reported by people from all walks of life, spanning cultures and civilizations throughout history. One of the most intriguing aspects of shadow people is their alleged connection to alien encounters. While sightings of shadow people have long been associated with hauntings and paranormal activity, some theorists propose that they may actually be extraterrestrial beings, manifesting in a form that is perceptible to human senses.